Angelo Bono was a 49-year-old New Yorker who fancied himself as an Italian stallion. He had a deep loathing of women. Kenneth Bianke, his distant cousin, was an all-American boy who had come to California for sun, sea, and girls. He was also a compulsive liar and a thief.
She don't like me.
They had a sick loathing of women and a desire to humiliate and brutalize them. Their cruising ground were the streets around Hollywood, a mecca for runaways, addicts, prostitutes, and the homeless. Together they would form a lethal cocktail that would kill 10 women and terrorize the city of Los Angeles.
KFWB's Jim Mitchell will report on the discovery of a nude woman's body found in the La Crescenta area and the ongoing investigation. Forecast for Los Angeles, it's going to be a beautiful weekend. It's a high tomorrow of about 77 degrees. Glendale police have another apparent murder of a young woman on their hands. KFWB's Cecilia Pedrosa has a direct report from Chevy Chase Drive.
Judy Miller was a 15-year-old prostitute who worked the Hollywood streets.
Hey, baby, how you doing? What's going on?
You guys looking for some fun tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you working tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Let's go.
No tax, right?
Yeah, no tax.
But, I'm afraid honey's not your night. LAPD.
Hey, I didn't do anything.
You did plenty. Come on. Come on, you gotta come in. Let's go.
She would be raped, sodomized, and strangled, her naked body dumped in the middle-class residential area north of Glendale. In a city with over 800 murders a year, the killing of a teenage prostitute, Judy Miller, made very little news. It would take 3 more bodies. Yolanda Washington, prostitute.
Now listed as the Hillside Strangler.
Lisa Kasten, dancer and waitress.
Victims were found in the hills surrounding Los Angeles.
And the killing of a white middle-class student, Christina Wagner, before the city could be shocked into taking notice of the Hillside Strangler. That day was Sunday, November 20th, the same day that homicide detective Bob Grogan was first brought into the case.
Oh, I remember the first call, never forget it. I was at home, it was a Sunday, it was November 19th, 1977. I was watching a Rams football game, and I was really upset that I got called in on a murder case. You know, a day off, you're trying to, kick back, but I'll never forget it. I got called in, and it was the case involving Christina Wagner. It was interesting that it was first reported to us as a possible hype prostitute body dump.
Looks like everybody in town is here.
When you hit a crime scene for the first time, the things you don't see are the things later that probably mean the most. And what you're really looking at is to develop some kind of feel for the victim.
Has she been,
Yeah, she's been raped and strangled.
Who found the body?
Kid in the neighborhood. He's over there.
Jesus, she looks like a kid.
Christina Wagner was placed about 30 or 40 feet off the sidewalk. She was nude, laying on her back. It was apparent that there were ligature marks on her neck, her wrist, and her ankles.
Must have been more than one of them.
These marks became known as the 5-point ligature, which meant that the bruising on both wrists, both ankles, and neck showed that she'd been tied up or bound before being strangled.
It was pretty considerate the way they laid her out.
In looking at Christina, it didn't strike me that she was a street-type person. This girl is not the run-of-the-mill prostitute gal. This is going to be a serious case. This is more than what meets the eye. At that point in my career, I'd probably already investigated as many as 50 or 60 murder cases, and this was more than the ordinary.
Later that afternoon, detectives were called to investigate 2 more homicides on the other side of the hill. Dolly Cepeda, 12, and Sonia Johnson, 14, Mexican schoolgirls who'd been missing for a week. The 2 dead girls were found on a rubbish dump by a 9-year-old boy who thought they were discarded mannequins.
They were seen at Eagle Rock Plaza on Colorado Boulevard on a Saturday. They had gone shopping. They frequently would go shopping together, 12 and 14-year-old girls. And they were last seen by a witness at a bus stop on Colorado Boulevard. End of story. Bodies wound up in a kind of a dump area where people would throw their refuse on the side of a hill. Nothing to go on their cases. Absolutely nothing to go on. Not a thing.
All 3 girls had been assaulted and killed in exactly the same way. The next day, Grogan arranged to meet the grieving parents at Christina's apartment in Glendale.
Nobody prepares you to discuss the death of their daughter with the mother and father. It's very difficult. There's no special investigative training that prepares you for that. You just do the best you can. It's a very difficult time for both the parents and the detective.
Christina's parents had come from San Francisco to collect their daughter's belongings. All Grogan could do was pledge to them that he would find her killer, or killers.
Chuck Wagner. It was a tough one. Obviously very proud and loved his daughter dearly, and it's very difficult to explain what has happened to their daughter. But you have to be careful about details.
Found out anything?
No.
Do you have any leads?
No.
Any witnesses?
No.
You would like to tell them everything,
can do is
because
pursue
I
that I
really honestly believe that the parents have a right to know. And parents at that point in time are very inquisitive. They want to know everything.
So what do you need from us?
If I could take a look at Christina's apartment, might be of some help.
Fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
I always had a thing for murder, for homicide. I think that's the ultimate, is trying to, put yourself in the shoes of the victim and try to find out who killed him. But this one kind of hit me a little bit, because as the more time I spent in her apartment, I realized this is more than what meets the average eye. This is a very bright, intelligent young girl from a very well-off family, attending a good school, background impeccable. This is one that's, the wheels start turning. Obviously what you're doing, you're looking at a sex offender. And I'm looking for some guy out there who gets his kicks killing and raping girls. I will always remember that day. I will always remember that day.
November 17th. Todd and I are fighting. Tonight we broke up. I don't know what is going to happen. I care about him, but these fights are getting worse. November 18th. I spoke with Todd today. We're still having trouble. I don't know when this will end and where we're headed. November 19th. Todd made me cry today, right in the middle of the mall. I saw him going in and I tried to talk to him. He just yelled. I wish we wouldn't fight. I love him.
There was a boyfriend that she had a spat with that we leaned on big time. I mean, we went after him big time for 2 reasons. We didn't want to screw around with him if he was nothing. And if he was something, we wanted to get his ass. So, I mean, he took the brunt of us. We really put him through the ringer. He had made a comment of a dispute they had in a diary. That's what led us to him. And another girlfriend who said, yeah, they are falling out now. But this guy he wasn't any murderer. But again, you have to positively eliminate him.
Recognize this woman?
I don't know.
How about this one? How about this one?
No.
That's your girlfriend, my friend. That's Christina Wexler.
We went after him, talked to him, discussed this relationship with her. And at that point, we're determining if this guy's a viable suspect or are we just eliminating him as a suspect. And one is as important as the other.
Thought she was flirting with a friend of mine.
So you left her there?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
I went home.
By yourself?
By myself.
Were you drinking that night?
Yeah, I had some drinks.
I don't think people understand that not only finding the suspect, but eliminating people is just as important, because, I mean, that's a skeleton that'll hang in your closet all through the case if you don't have all the possibilities eliminated.
Christina's
The
house.
fact that he had accountability for his time and whereabouts certainly cleared him as a suspect, but in looking at him, he didn't fit the bill. What we're looking for at that time is a very serious type, serial murder type suspect. This was a very evil act by a very, very emotionally disturbed serial murder type guy.
The police had no murder scene, no motive, no suspects, and pressure from the media was building.
Here with a degree of trepidation.
Chief of Police Darrell Gates had nothing to offer.
That we have any substantial news for you, only if he provides it, and the mayor means what he said. Again, I don't want to go into that kind of detail. Any of those kinds of things are possible.
The best thing we did in this case was stay away from the press. The press was usually handled at a public relations level. You get nothing working with the press on this case but grief. We even changed our radio frequency, so when we were out in the evening following up on certain aspects of the investigation, they couldn't monitor our calls. Because once they knew what our call units were, they would look for that call unit on the air, and God knows they'd show up at an interview. They were everywhere.
One of the problems in solving the murders was the bodies kept turning up in different police jurisdictions. LAPD and LA Sheriff's Department were rival agencies and did not share information. All that changed when Sergeant Frank Salerno and Bob Grogan started to work together.
I liked Frank's method of police work. He was very thorough, very detailed, total opposite of me. Yet I had the responsibility to do the same thing, but I did a lot of things by the seat of my pants. And I did a lot of things out of gut reaction, which works for me. And I think the contrasting styles between Frank and I played well. I listened to Frank when he got into detailed discussion, and I believe he listened to me when I got into my gut reaction feelings. So I think Frank and I had good contrasting styles that worked well together. My private life was a mess. The Hillside Strangler case had a lot to do with my marriage ending. The tremendous pressure of the case had a lot to do with it. I was drinking substantially a lot of scotch. I mean, I would drink a bottle of scotch a day, you know. It was a lot of emotional stuff to carry around with you. Things that you can't go home and share with your wife and kids makes it extremely difficult to go home.
Yeah, about 5-10 minutes.
Hi, sweetheart.
I couldn't go home and discuss this with my family, yet I was concerned about my daughter's welfare. Well, my personal life was going in a handbasket. It was very difficult to resurrect it.
In less than 4 weeks, 6 girls had turned up dead, 3 on one day. All Grogan could do was theorize because the pattern of the crimes did not match the signature of a lone serial killer.
The thing that was very distinctive about this entire case was that the victims had no defense wounds. Here we have all these beautiful girls strangled and sexually assaulted with no trauma. No black eyes, no bruises on their body. So that led us to believe that somebody with a very good line of BS or a figure of authority got these girls to go along with them. From there, you hope for the next break. It's the unfortunate thing in working homicide, the next break could be the next homicide.
You want to ride? What do you think? We can give a ride, right? Where do you live, Far?
The killing of victim number 7, Jane King, a 28-year-old Scientology student, would send the city of Los Angeles into a panic. On November 23, 1977, Jane King's body was found in the foothills of LA. She was victim number 7 and the 4th body in 3 days. The city went into an uproar. Guns disappeared off the shelves as women armed themselves and took self-defense lessons.
Nobody stands very gently and puts their hands on your throat. They choke you and they put you down on that floor and you're down. That's this matter. And it is not a joke when they're doing it. Their intent is to harm you.
Anybody, any minute, any time could be the strangler, and you never know. So, I get scared when I'm by myself, so I work with other girls, carry weapons or whatever. In case, what if it is him? What are you gonna do? Have to fight him or something? Try to kill him?
After they found the body of Jane King, the LAPD and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department added another element of terror with a warning. Because there were no defense wounds on the victims, they were looking for someone in the position of authority. The killers could be cops or someone impersonating cops. The warning was specifically aimed at women drivers stopped by officers.
Be certain of the identification of the occupants, even to the extent of continuing to roll and asking to see identification and badge.
Well, it confirmed our belief because two-man operation, with all the factors now thrown in, lack of trauma, lack of defense wounds on the victims and all this now, could be 2 cops or 2 guys posing as cops. Confirmed our belief. There were serious investigations going on with Los Angeles police officers who were suspect because of some incident they may have been involved in or something they may have said to somebody. Because you got to remember, the city was pretty paranoid. So if somebody said, "Oop, I'm the Hillside Strangler," well, God damn it, you might well be. And if you're a police officer, you got investigated.
Not only were the police having to contend with bodies turning up every week, they were now having to investigate their own men. Thanksgiving week was utter chaos because the body of Lauren Wagner, victim number 8, was found 5 days after Jane King on November 28th.
Sweetie,
there really wasn't much Thanksgiving for any of the guys working at that time because the Lauren Wagner murder was on the 28th of November. That was a culmination of 7 murders in a very short period of time.
Let's cut this bird up, huh?
My wife didn't have a clue what I was doing or what I was going through. My kids didn't have a clue. I felt almost like an outsider in my own house. It's almost hard to explain how that happens, but it did happen.
All right, I'll be right there.
It's pretty tough for a woman to stay married to a guy who's never home. All those murders kind of came to a head, and we knew at that point that we had a very serious problem on our hand. We had a serial murderer. Lauren Wagner's crime scene to me was identical to Christina Wecker's. The girls even looked somewhat similar. Looking at Lauren Wagner, she was certainly not a street girl. Position of her body in a hillside area just off a road, there was very little attempt by the suspects to conceal this victim. The 5-point ligature marks were evident, very evident. You didn't have to get very close to see them.
The MO, or method of death, was exactly the same as the other 7 young girls.
Same MO? It appeared at a very cursory examination that there might have been an attempt to electrocute her.
This was a significant addition to the killings. They were now experimenting with torture. Sex while being strangled was no longer enough. While he was there, Grogan got a call to go to where she was abducted, out in the valley, 26 miles from where she was dumped.
We had an eyewitness. We had a neighborhood lady, Beulah Stouffer. She lived across the street from the Wagner residence, and the abduction of Lauren Wagner took place right in front of her house. This woman was extremely distraught and emotionally disturbed. She felt that she should have done something about what occurred in front of her house and that Lauren Wagner, her neighbor's daughter, would be alive.
Good evening, excuse me. Where are you coming from this evening? Work. Oh, well, me and my partner. We got a situation going on. It involves a car that's very similar.
And we try to convince her, Beulah, I mean, there's no way you could have prevented it, even understood what was taking place when you were observing it, so don't be punishing yourself. And she was really in a bad state emotionally, very bad state.
Similar to your type.
This is my car. What are you talking about?
Ellie.
She said that she observed a car pull over Lauren Wagner's Mustang. The car had a white top and a dark blue bottom, similar to a police-looking vehicle. Two guys got out of the vehicle. There was a conversation, some heated conversation, some resistance. And then she saw the two guys place Lauren Wagner in the back seat of this white over blue vehicle, drive off, leaving Lauren Wagner's Mustang parked at the curb.
No! Are you crazy? Stop it! No! No!
She felt at the time that it was nothing more than a party, some kind of a dispute. Nothing serious was taking place.
Beulah's eyewitness testimony was Grogan's first big break on the case. The LAPD immediately issued an identikit picture to all media.
Have so far failed to
Has been found in the Highland Park area.
Police psychologists believe he has a compulsion to repeat the crimes, and he will kill again.
The Hillside Strangler Task Force opened up business the following Monday in room 109 at Parker Center and became a bigger nightmare.
Pressure now is on heavy, big time. So what it does, it flows downhill, right? So now we go from 6 detectives to 100. Because I believe that if you have more than 2 detectives working a case, you're in trouble. They brought in 100 amateurs. We had some people that were totally incompetent investigating clues. 11,500 clues came in the course of probably 3 months. 11,500 different separate investigations.
Glendale police have another apparent murder of a young woman on their hands. KFWD's Cecilia Pedrosa has a direct report from Chevy Chase Drive. Another young woman has been found in the Highland Park.
2 weeks later, on December 13th, victim 9 sent the media into a frenzy. There had now been 9 bodies in less than 8 weeks. Kimberly Diane Martin was sprawled on a vacant lot on Alvarado Street within sight of City Hall, the council chamber of the city of LA.
Same I went to that scene. There was not my murder case, but at that point in time, it was definitely one of our murders. And when I looked at Kimberly Martin, no doubt, no question. It could have done it from a distance. 5-point ligatures were so distinctive, and again, absolutely no trauma on the victim. It was chaotic. We had to order the CBS helicopter to get out of the airspace to stop interfering with our photographer who in the police helicopter was trying to take pictures of the area.
From the CBS News helicopter, it was clear the killers had laid out the body for all of Hollywood to see.
These guys are good. Pissing me off big time. I think they're kind of shoving it in our face now. This substantiates 2 people more than you can imagine because they had to carry, this girl weighed about probably close to 140, big girl. They had to carry that body down this very steep hill that had a lot of growth of ice plant and brush around it, that if they had dragged her, it would have been, you would have noted. There was certainly no drag marks on the heels of any of the victims to substantiate the post-mortem injury on the feet.
Yeah.
Kimberly was unique. Again, a major change in MO for the suspects. Back in the city again. No street contact. They used a telephone. Kimberly Martin was a whore, prostitute. And she was called to a residence in Hollywood.
Yes, I'd like a girl for tonight. Blonde, sexy, long legs. I'd like her to be young. How much? All right. 114 Tamarind. Yeah, Hollywood, right. Kimberly? Okay.
Hi.
Kimberly?
Hi, I'm in. Sorry about the power being out, but
Well, that goes to show that they were more brazen. The fact that they took her to an apartment building in Hollywood and caused such a ruckus in that apartment where she was, where they were trying to sexually assault or attack at that time, that the sounds were heard in the building. There were several people who interviewed on that level floor where that apartment was, that reported hearing screams and a tussle going on there. And that was pretty brazen. In following up, we learned that she was an employee by this alcohol service, and then we traced to see if there was a call made for her services, and there was one. And it was made from the Hollywood Public Library in a public payphone. We sent Detective Rich Crotchley, and they fingerprinted the public phone booth and the area surrounding it, which is really a long shot. I mean, you're out taking fingerprints off a public phone booth. That means you're going to get everybody who's ever used that phone booth forever. But anyhow, it was traced back to that phone. When alcohol services get a call for service, they're very careful about, they try to screen their clients. And they usually don't take calls over payphones. They want that person who's calling for that alcohol service to have a residence or in a hotel. But the suspect who made this phone call over that payphone, the Kimberly Martin, had a great line of bull to get them to send an out call to an address other than that phone call. And that's what happened.
Two weeks later, victim 10.
February 18th, Cindy Hudspeth. Classic murder, Hillside Strangler. She had gone into Angelo Bono's shop for some upholstery work. Slam, bam, thank you, ma'am. End of story.
Hey, how you doing today?
Okay. She walked into the lion's den. Didn't know it. They didn't even have to go out looking for her.
Think you could help me?
They did something very unusual here. After to dispose of the body, they drove it off Mount Wilson Road way up in the mountains, long way from home.
Deputies searched this area of the Angeles National Forest after Cindy Hudspeth's body was found in the trunk of her car last Friday. The effort continued on and off during the past week, and then it expanded today when cadets from the Sheriff's Academy were brought in to check the roadsides and the adjacent canyon areas. Cindy Hudspeth's body was found nude. There's been no trace of her clothing, her purse, her identification, or her credit cards.
And then the murders stopped. The normal body count in LA showed no more young girls dead from strangulation and sexual abuse. Weeks went by, then months. The task force dwindled from 100 to 30 to 2, leaving just the primary investigators, Grogan and Salerno. 10 women had died in 5 months. They appeared to be perfect crimes. There were no clues. Almost 150 detectives had conducted the biggest manhunt in the history of Los Angeles. It failed, and the killer, or killers, remained at large.
What we did know then was the reason it all ended is that the two suspects had a falling out, and they each went their own way.
After 10 murders, Bianke was enjoying the notoriety, and his behavior was becoming more and more unpredictable.
Bianke, in December, right after the Martin murder, he went to the Highland Park police station and talked to a sergeant there and convinced him that he was interested in becoming a police reserve, and actually partook in 2 ride-alongs with 2 different sergeants of the Los Angeles Police Department. And during both of them, he was quizzing them as to the location of the crime scenes of the Hillside Strangler. And Bono just thought that was just absolutely bull. And that, you're playing games with my life. I think Bono was the controlling factor And when he couldn't control Bianke anymore, it was time to split. You know, Bianke off, you know, doing all these capers with the exposing himself, making comments to girlfriends, et cetera, and then telling Bono about him. Bono just wouldn't have any of that nonsense. To him, to Bono, killing was a very serious business.
Thanks a lot.
You know why I got you up here? I got you up here because nobody can hear you up here. You have a big mouth. You became a chatty Cathy. You know what that is?
Come on, we're not stopping it. Nah, you're just having a bad day. Come on, look.
A bad day?
Yeah.
A bad life. It's gonna.
And that's what put a strain on the relationship, because he goes back and tells Bono. And Bono is a very serious. Bono pictures himself as the mafia king, the Italian stallion head of the mafia. But after that, Bono says, "Get out of my life."
Walking away from you is not going to solve it.
And he does.
Huh? It's not going to solve it.
If you don't behave yourself, I'm gonna kill you. And that's it.
Kenneth Bianke moved 1,000 miles north to Bellingham, a small fishing village in Washington state with just 6 detectives. He joined his girlfriend and young son and got a job as a security guard. He lasted a year before he had to prove to Bono that he could kill on his own. He lured 2 university students, Karen Mandic and Diane Wilder, to a house-sitting job in a wealthy Bayside neighborhood. There, he strangled and killed them. The next day, their bodies were found in the trunk of an abandoned car. The killings lacked the cleverness of the Hillside Strangler's work, and Bianke left a trail of evidence connecting him to the girls and the house-sitting job. He lied about knowing the girls, and his security firm set him up in an isolated guard shack because they knew he would be armed. When police picked him up for questioning, he remained calm. He seemed unfearful of being arrested for murder and acted as if he was a wrong suspect. But near the shack, they found Diane Wilder's coat concealed beneath a pipe.
I think you got the wrong guy.
His arrest and subsequent trial would take the Hillside Strangler into legal history.
27-year-old Kenneth Bianke was taken into police custody last week in Bellingham, Washington. He was questioned in connection with the murder of 2 co-eds whose bodies were found stuffed in the trunk of their car. Police have not charged Bianke with the murders, but they say they believe they have evidence linking him to the killing.
Bianke consistently denied knowing Karen Mandic and said there must be an imposter using his name. But in his security truck, police found the keys to the Bayside house and a scarf belonging to Diane Wilder. In the stairwell of the house, they also found a pubic hair that matched a sample taken from Bianke, and blonde hairs from Karen Mandic's head. When they ran their background checks, they found out Bianke had recently moved from Los Angeles and had lived on Garfield and Tamarind, both locations of the Hillside Strangler. It had been a year since the last victim had turned up in the hills overlooking Hollywood. Grogan's relationship with his wife had completely broken down, and he'd moved out of the family home and into an apartment.
Grogan. Yeah, this is Salerno. We may have just gotten our first break on this case.
Salerno had run a check on Bianke's name in the LA computer and found it listed under 4 separate clues, including one that reported him brandishing handcuffs and a police badge. A task force detective had already talked to him back in November '77, but nothing had come of the interview.
Yeah, okay, when are you going up there?
While Grogan stayed behind to check out Bianke's LA connections, Salerno went up to Bellingham and searched Bianke's property. He found a young family and a girlfriend, Kelly Boyd, in shock.
How long have you and Kenneth been back together now?
Well, he came back up and we patched things up. It was going real good.
And has he been a good dad to Ryan? And How's he treated you since?
He's a wonderful father. He's been completely devoted to both of us.
The police felt concern for Kelly Boyd. They decided she was a decent person and that she was not involved in any nefarious activities.
What did you pull? Are you going to put any of this stuff back or what?
Yeah, certainly.
She was totally ignorant of Kenny Bianche's other nature. Their initial search uncovered a turquoise ring similar to the one worn by Yolanda Washington, the first victim, and a necklace identical to the one belonging to Kimberly Martin.
Kelly, is this yours? You recognize this? Not familiar to you? Why don't you bag it?
This would become a crucial piece of evidence linking Bianke to the LA murders. He denied the charges, saying he had no memory of the killings and agreed to be put under hypnosis. Only then, when he was hypnotized, did a completely different personality emerge and confess, not only to the Bellingham murders, but to those in Los Angeles.
What do you want? I'd like to talk to you. I want a cigarette. I don't have a cigarette. Give me a cigarette.
Over 16 hours of videotape were recorded, during which an aggressive alter ego named Steve emerged. Steve was coarse, foul-mouthed, and hated Kenny, his other self, for being weak.
You're not talking to some dummy. You understand?
If you had viewed that videotape, it was a Walt Disney production from front to back. It made you sick. I remember Salerno's comments, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. The doctor who was conducting that, oh God almighty, the most unprofessional piece of psychiatry I've ever seen in my life.
Hi. Are you Ken?
Do I look like Ken?
It was the most self-serving act by a professional doctor to promote his own values on hysteria. I wrote him a letter afterwards, telling him what a despicable, unprofessional he was.
So what?
If Bianke could convince the experts of a multiple personality, then he could enter an insanity plea and not stand trial.
It isn't Ken, is it?
No, it's not. It's Steve.
Oh, okay, Steve.
The more attention Bianke received, the more he opened up.
See, I got your cake. Okay. You want to know which ones Angelo and I did away?
If you want to
think
tell
I'm
me
not going to tell you, huh?
Oh, no, you can tell me now.
Huh?
This was the first time police had a lead on a second guy. Kenny Bianke was innocent. It was Steve who killed the girls. Steve and his cousin, Angelo Bono.
Hey, man, it doesn't bother me any. I told you, killing a broad doesn't make any difference to me. Killing anybody doesn't make any difference.
Maybe you didn't kill any of those. I don't know.
Oh, hey, no, wrong, man. Hey, I killed a couple of these.
Well, which ones? You think you did, right? I don't know.
I killed her. Angelo killed her.
They mean the Wagner one Angelo killed.
This broad I'd never seen before.
Martin.
This broad I'd never seen before.
Hudspeth, you never saw them at all?
No.
Oh.
This broad I'd never seen before.
Robinson says.
This broad I killed. These two Angelo killed.
Wexler. Johnson.
This one I'd never seen before.
Angelo killed, huh? Now,
this one I'd never seen before. This broad I killed.
Barcombe you never seen before. This Caston is the broad you killed, you say.
Am I going too fast?
Yeah,
for you?
you're going so damn fast. I'm not that smart. Okay. I'm not as bright as you are, so let's cool it and slow it down a bit.
Since I enjoy your taste here and your interest, and I'm really, very pleased that you've taken interest in this, I'm going to do you a favor. Let me borrow your script here, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll do you a favor,
Okay.
so that you don't get lost along the way.
Okay,
See?
all right. You do me the favor.
It's real easy.
Yeah.
What you don't understand is, this one I killed.
At that point, you want to reach across and just take your .38 revolver out and blow us away. That would be nice. I always wish we had a magical weapon like that, because a piece of shit like that doesn't deserve the benefit of the judicial system, as far as I'm concerned.
Angelo will be across, okay? I'll make it nice and easy for you. He's my kind of man.
Okay.
There should be more people in the world like Angelo.
All right, the ones that Angelo's across, and which ones are you then?
I'm the X's.
Oh, you're the X's.
Yeah, you want me to write that down for you so you can remember?
Faced with compelling evidence by independent psychiatrists proving that his multiple personality was a sham, Bianke withdrew his plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. In a plea bargain, the state of Washington dropped its demand for the death penalty in exchange for an agreement for Bianke to plead guilty to the Bellingham murders and to testify against Angelo Bono in Los Angeles. 2 days later, Grogan got the order to move on Bono.
They had a warrant to search the home and shop of Angelo Bono on Colorado in Glendale. Bono is the cousin of Kenneth Bianke, who's considered
So we do it. I remember that day was a very gratifying day because this son of a b****, in my mind, was it. He was the actual perpetrator of the two that may put this gruesome series of murders into motion. I think the magic formula, Bono and Bianke together, was primarily the movement of Bono.
Bono, you son of a bitch!
And I just reached over and I grabbed him by the neck and I slammed him against the wall. And I says, you know, you son of a... And I just kind of lost my cool. You would think we were bringing him in for a parking ticket. Incredibly under control. No emotion. No, nothing. Not even a smart remark to the police like, you pigs, I'll get you, or just a walk in the park. So cool. It was incredible. Bono was a street hard con kind of guy. Dumber than, but street smart.
Denying him.
So now we're sitting, waiting for trial. And we got a call from the district attorney, Roger Kelly. God rest his soul, he's dead now, but I hated the... He was a good prosecutor only if he had a signed confession and a smoking gun. But if it required work, Roger Kelly was worthless as tits on a bull. All of a sudden we find out that he's going to make a motion to dismiss on Angelo Bono 10 counts of murder because he's convinced the district attorney, John Vandekamp, that the jurors may not believe Bianke. I was incensed. And of course, Vandekamp, who was a DA at the time, was a weak sister, had political aspirations, probably felt that Kelly, the DA, was right, that maybe I won't win this. And if I can't convict a Hillside Strangler, I may not get elected to a political office somewhere down the road. I mean, this is a big feather in his cap. This case is covered by every major newspaper in the world, and he can't afford to lose it. Why, that chicken son of a went along with Kelly. And I was in Ronald George's courtroom in Superior Court. We were all there. The prosecution moved to dismiss the charges against Angelo Bono. It was a good thing I had a little control. I wanted to go over and shoot Roger Kelly. I mean, we were like gone down the tubes because of somebody's ego. I mean, the political system in this country sometimes makes you sick, and this was a point in time where you got sick over it.
The following Monday, Judge Ronald George stunned the courtroom by denying the motion.
I felt that my obligation as the trial judge at the time was not to act as a rubber stamp either for the prosecution or the defense, but rather to make an independent determination whether dismissal would in fact be in the interests of justice. And having had the experience of having gone through several thousand pages of transcripts of preliminary motions, I felt that it would not be in the interests of justice to dismiss the case and that the case should run its course by way of a jury trial.
Well, I was in that courtroom Monday morning, and Ron George got up and denied the motion. You know, it's like my whole light bulb went on. It was the happiest damn day of my life. I ran down and bought a bottle of finest champagne that I could find. But I wanted to somehow, after all these years of work, say, Jesus, hey, thanks for allowing the system to work, Your Honor, because you're a judge with balls. Stood up under great controversy, you know, and did this. I think that's incredible. So we bring in the Attorney General's office from the state of California. We bring in two guys, Roger Bourne and Mike Nash, two prosecutors, and we went over every piece of evidence.
A state attorney general is handling the prosecution because Bianke changed his story so much, local officials didn't think they had a good case.
Roger Bourne and his team were given 2 months to prepare. They sifted through every single piece of evidence and witness statement, quickly deciding that what they had was strong enough to prosecute. In November 1981, the case went to trial.
And we told the jurors from the start that Kenneth Bianke was going to lie to them, and he was also going to tell the truth to them, and that they needed to look at the evidence as a whole in order to convict Angelo Bono.
The trial lasted 2 years, the longest criminal trial in American history. The prosecution called 251 witnesses and introduced over 1,000 exhibits. The jury retired on October 21st, 1983. 10 days later, they convicted Bono of the murder of Lauren Wagner.
I would not have the slightest reluctance to impose the death penalty in this case were it within my power.
It was so emotional. I can't even describe it. I was afraid to look at anybody because I didn't want anybody to see how happy I was. I didn't want the jury to see that elation, you know. Also, the relief that I had. You're still professional, you know what I mean? You can't go, yay, you know, like they do in the movies. People stand up and cheer when verdicts are read. I can't do that. I'm still a detective. I have to sit there and keep on. It's tough keeping it in, but we did it. Even though you got the verdict and you got the verdict you want, it doesn't change anything. You still have this tremendous feeling of passion for these people who suffered this loss. The fact that I knew that that son of a was never going to get out again was the elation, because here's a guy that loves his woman, and he ain't going to have any anymore. Now, I can bathe in that for years. I still have. I think that's fabulous. That poor living in that cell and only allowed 1 hour a day out to suck up fresh air. I think that's great. That's probably tougher than getting executed. It's nice now I have long periods of time where I don't think about it anymore. I used to think about it quite often. It's not pleasant memories, never will be, but the outcome is certainly gratifying. I met a very lovely lady over it, so that's a plus. My children and I are back together, but it was a tough one. It probably took a little bit of, a little chunk out of me emotionally than I would have preferred. But that's the way I'm built. I just, you know, it's the way I approach cases and the way I work cases. And this one sucked me in a little more than the other. You know, I think vengeance in this case is well served. God says that vengeance is okay. I believe it. I believe in this case that the families needed vengeance. No two guys earned it any better, any more than Kenny and Angelo.
A Saturday night in January '77. Just after midnight, a young couple, John Deal and Christine Freud, parked up in a quiet street in Forest Hills, Queens.
I don't care. You're gonna sleep over at my place then.
What's up?
Oh my God.
This was no routine homicide. The shooting was the start of a 6-month-long ordeal for the police and the city.
I have never in my life seen a bunch of guys that were more dedicated to a case than the group that worked on this case.
23 years after the investigation, Borelli is back together with two of the men he worked most closely with. Joe Coffey, then a sergeant with 30 years police work behind him, and Marlon Hopkins, a homicide detective from Queens.
I was a captain in charge of the 3 homicide zones, and it was close to the end of the tour. I think it was close to midnight. And I was on my way home.
On the journey, Borelli caught a call on the police radio describing the mysterious shooting of a young girl in Queens.
I had heard about the shooting. Now, normally, we had a lot of shootings. But this was in Forest Hills, which is a very exclusive part of Queens. And when I got there, naturally, Christine Freund had been taken to the hospital. She is still alive.
It's this close to being home, Joe. Okay, sorry, Captain. What do you got? Okay, we got multiple...
He was met at the scene by Sergeant Joe Coffey, who told him how Christine Freud had been shot twice in the head. Detective Marlon Hopkins had just found some crucial evidence.
He brought me around to the car and he showed me this spent round. And it was an enormous piece of lead that was lying on the windshield, and it looked like an awfully large caliber bullet.
Christine Freud was taken to Kings County Hospital with massive head injuries. While she fought for her life, detectives questioned boyfriend John Deal, but could find no motive. Back at the scene, Joe Borelli met a fellow detective.
What do you make of it, Joe? Pat Moynihan.
Pat Moynihan had responded also, and he was with the precinct detectives.
Listen, Cap, we've had a couple of shootings around here with very large caliber bullets.
A .44 caliber bullet.
2 girls were shot.
Borelli was told it was a string of .44 caliber shootings, one involving a detective's daughter.
And she was parked up just like these two.
And that's when it appeared that things were a little bit more than they seemed at the time. It wasn't an individual shooting. I had never run into a homicide with a .44 caliber bullet before. You know, that's a big bullet.
All right, I want everybody who was on those cases.
Borelli called a meeting with the detectives who dealt with the other .44 caliber shootings for the next day.
Still no pulse.
Borelli hoped to get a statement from Christine in the hospital.
Mr. and Mrs. Freund?
But she'd never utter another word.
Some bad news.
This was now a homicide, and Borelli's case.
Call it. Time of death, 1:05 a.m.
Hey, George.
Early that same morning, Borelli sent Sergeant Joe Coffey to see the precinct's ballistics expert.
It looks like you got yourself a real psycho here.
Okay, tell me a little more.
He says, I'm telling you, you have a psycho here. He says, I can't prove it. He says, but you have a psycho.
Well, it's a .44, it's very unusual, happened in a different area. Let's put them on a microscope and see if there's any similarities or any connection. There was.
Because the Charter Arms bulldog gun was so unusual.
Yeah.
Remember, it was for the Sky Marshals. Right. They manufactured that for the Sky Marshals. And he was hanging his hat on that. He says, this is an unusual gun. This is not a gun you're going to find anywhere.
This has to be the same person.
He says it has to be a lunatic out there doing this.
This is like a serial killer we have.
A lone gunman, a .44 caliber. Although the bullets weren't matched at that time, it seems strange that we'd have 3 shootings, 2 in the Queens and 1 in Bronx, and with the same caliber gun. But again, you know, you don't want to make any assumptions, so you wait. Right after the Christine Freund homicide, I was in my little office, which was in the 15th homicide, and the phone rang, and I picked it up, and there was a male Hispanic speaking, and he insisted, please, I'm not crazy, don't hang up on me.
Please, don't hang up.
But my wife has these powers, as he described it.
Look, I don't have time for this. It's a psychic.
And I could hear this woman in the background. She was kind of like in a trance, and he's deciphering and he's translating. The words were, he's going to strike again.
This is a street, but it's not exactly the street.
It's on a street, but it's not a street. It's in a park, but it's not a park. And the car is two-tone, red and black.
And a boy and a girl, and they're gonna be killed.
So, you know, I took the information down, and I had received a few calls through the years from people like this, so I kind of didn't think too much of it. A short time after that call, we got a call of a homicide in Forest Hills again.
Virginia Voskarichin was slain only half a block from where Christine Freund had been killed only 5 weeks earlier. Police are saying that the man apparently walked up to her.
And there was Virginia lying on the sidewalk, and she's, I think it was like from here across the street to where Christine Freund had gotten killed. And it wasn't anything like the woman described on the phone.
Although the murders seemed different, there was no doubt this was the same killer. Virginia had raised her books to protect herself and slowed the bullet down enough to give Borelli's team the first concrete ballistic evidence at the base of her skull.
This is the third woman to be killed in the hands of the man that police are calling a crazed woman hater.
Now there was no question. A serial killer was loose in New York. The press were linking the killings. The police had to go public. On March 10th, Borelli had to take the stand with Chief of Detectives John Keenan and Mayor Abe Bean. This was an election year, and the mayor needed it solved fast.
He was trailing in the polls. This was the biggest thing that happened in the city of New York in who knows when. So you knew that this was a very highly politicized situation.
We believe the shootings are the work of a single individual.
The chief issued a warrant for the arrest of the man the press would soon call the .44 caliber killer.
It is for a white male, 25 to
But descriptions were vague.
age, 6 foot tall, medium build, with dark hair. A .44 caliber Charter Arms Bulldog is the weapon used in at least 3 of these shootings.
Is there a reward on this guy's head?
Is there a link at all between any of
The chief had issued a warrant for any white male aged between 25 and 35. It could have been anybody.
Every day we had to accomplish something in the investigation, and that isn't the way investigations go. There was a constant hounding from the press and the media.
Captain Borelli, what about the motives? Does he target women?
Oh, look, all he's shooting is girls. Draw your own conclusions.
And then there would be a rumor that we had a suspect, and gee, they would descend on us like bees after honey.
With nothing to narrow their search, detectives would have to deal with thousands of calls naming potential suspects. Each one would have to be manually processed.
For every single call into this incident room, no matter how stupid the caller sounds, you fill out one of these forms.
You always have the crank call, you know, I'm the guy, and can't catch me, the crackpots we call them.
And why do you think your husband did it?
If some reporter had interviewed
Ma'am, settle down.
or someone said that he felt the killer was impotent, we'd get 100 calls. People giving up impotent boyfriends or husbands or whatever. Those things were crazy, but I mean, that's exactly what was going on.
This is the latest police composite. It reflects thousands of hours of investigations and interviews with scores of possible witnesses. This picture is being distributed all over New York City in an attempt to apprehend this man.
Quite obviously, we can't take that sketch and go out and pick out the person we're looking for.
Chief of Detectives John Keenan decided to release a sketch of the killer, even though it was known to be vague.
Or some friend of his may be able to come forward and say, this looks like the man we're looking for.
While police have been working on his physical characteristics, psychiatrists have been attempting to sketch a psychological profile to learn more about him.
To feed a hungry press, the chief also released a profile of the killer. It would generate even more false leads for the task force.
At the request of Joe, who was looking for any kind of lead he can get, narrowing down the personality, what we did was typical to crime scene analysis. We tried to evaluate what was there. Since there was no evidence that indicated somebody that wanted a cat and mouse game with the police.
Harvey was a police officer, but he was a psychologist, and he prepared a profile of what he thought the shooter was. We gave him all the information on the prior incidents, thinking that maybe it was the same guy.
The first thing I said to Joe, that we're dealing with a psychopath. This is the kind of guy that has no conscience, has no feeling for other people, uses people to satisfy his own needs. He needs immediate gratification. He can't wait. Don't tell me what you're going to do for me tomorrow. Tell me what you're going to do for me now.
Of all the experts that we had subsequent, when the case got really big, and they brought in these renowned people, no one came as good as Harvey's original profile.
So what he does has to be very dramatic, very flashy, and he needs that immediate feedback, for example, from the media or from the police reaction to what he does.
The man New York's detectives were looking for was a nondescript 23-year-old with no close friends and no real identity. He believed a demon called Sam Carl was ordering him to go out and kill. In his fantasy life, he was the son of Sam, a servant of the devil, and at his next killing, he'd leave a letter to Borelli describing his strange satanic world.
I got a call from the chief detective's office saying that they had a shooting up in the Bronx, and it looked like it was our guy, the .44 caliber.
Right. How do they know it's our guy?
And they told me there was a letter that was addressed to me.
Right over.
I responded up to the Bronx, and it was on the Hutchinson River Parkway, which is a major parkway in the city of New York. But it was on the service road, the road that leads down. It's all tree-lined. So as soon as I got to the scene, I got taken back, and I recalled Mrs. Rodriguez's phone call.
It's a street, but it's not exactly a street.
It's going to be on a street, but it's not a street. There was a male and female, both killed in the car, and the car was red and black.
The son of a shot them both in the head. A boy and a girl.
The couple were identified as Valentina Siriani and Alex Esor. 20-year-old Alex was a tow truck driver. His girlfriend Valentina, an 18-year-old aspiring actress. She lived just a block from the shootings. Her parents could have heard the shots. The killer had tossed his letter to Borelli onto the lap of one of his victims. He was beginning to enjoy his notoriety.
Jeez, the guy's writing me a letter. Now he's making it personal.
Although the letter was never published, enough would be disclosed to send a fresh wave of fear through New York and give the .44 caliber killer his new name, the Son of Sam.
The city of New York was paralyzed with fear by the second or third killing. And part of the reason for that was this killing had all the elements of terrorism, in that every citizen in the city felt that they could possibly be a victim. So it wasn't something that happened someplace else as you read about it and it's over, but it's something that could happen to you tonight, tomorrow, when you least expect it.
The night before last night, I have two sisters and a brother, and they ran outside and they grabbed me, and they brought me in the house, and they're younger than I, and they were really afraid. But they weren't like, I won't even sit outside my house or anything. I'm really scared.
People in the neighborhood, they see somebody that doesn't look familiar and everything, they get very suspicious, you know. So everybody's got their eye out. If they can help in any way, they're gonna help.
I've been watching everybody, watching every move he's making. Been covering my hair, changing the ways I've been doing normal life, you know, like parking and things. I wouldn't, do that anymore.
For the next 4 months, this strange signature and the name Son of Sam would be the focus of thousands of headlines as New York City waited for his next killing. April '77. New York's reeling from the latest .44 caliber killings. Valentina Siriani and Alex Esau were shot in their car in the Bronx, and in the last 6 months, Son of Sam has murdered 3 other young women. The city was desperate for the serial killer to be caught. Borelli hoped a letter left at the last murder would give him the break he needed, but he'd have to wait 24 hours for forensics to check for prints.
We found that there were a number of latent fingerprints on the letter. Whose latent prints they are were, of course, we didn't know at that particular time. Unless you had a suspect, you would have to go through the fingerprint files finger by finger to see if you could make an identification.
Take the letter, Captain.
Luckily enough, they were still able to develop a partial palm print from the letter, the first forensic evidence unique to the killer.
We now had something concrete, physical evidence. We had some prints, and we had his handwriting. Whether he was contriving the handwriting, we're not too sure. Jimmy was pretty sure that he was trying to fake it and writing like, if you ever notice in cartoons the way they print, it's very similar to that. And I think he started off the letter by saying, Captain Borelli, I'm not a woman hater. But he spelled woman, W-E-O. I think it was deliberate on his part to misspell it.
I'm deeply hurt by you calling me a woman hater. I'm not, but I am a monster. I am the Son of Sam.
When Joe first showed me that letter, my immediate reaction was, this is a guy that's trying to build a reputation for himself so that he'd be known, that his name would be recognized. When people heard his name, they'd be frightened. It would show he was powerful and he had an identity. Being an anonymous killer would not give him any satisfaction. And the letter was designed to give the police a variety of incoherent leads, which he knew would lead them no place. And at the same time, create the impression that there was something psychiatrically wrong with him so that he was unpredictable.
The women of Queens are the prettiest of all, Mr. Borelli. I don't want to kill any more, but I must honor my father. Please let me haunt you with these words. I'll be back, I'll be back, I'll be back. To be interpreted as bang bang, yours in murder, Mr. Monster.
Descriptions.
Fearing mass hysteria, the police held back most of the letter, saying only he'd contacted an officer. With no real progress in the investigation, all the chief could tell the press is that women should avoid darkened streets.
To stay out of dark areas late at night.
All right, I'm afraid when I'm alone with one of my friends, but I got plenty of people here, and I'm not that afraid because I got a crowd. But otherwise, I'd be afraid. Of course I'd be afraid. He's a sick guy. He'd kill anytime.
Since he did have these problems with women, it was very unlikely that he'd be married, and he'd probably live alone. It would be unlikely for him to work with other people. So he would do some kind of isolated job where he handled objects, not people.
It's like this guy's got to be caught. He really does. He's got to be either tortured slowly or he's got to be put away.
Listen, I need you down right away.
Borelli's team was so desperate to catch the killer, sometimes competition would get the better of them and tempers would fray.
I would imagine a lot of them almost wound up in the divorce court.
Why don't you do it? I'll do it. I will. All right. Guys.
To make matters worse, New York experienced 3 days of blackouts, but Borelli had his own problems to deal with.
I think there was a tremendous impact on my family, my wife and the girls. A lot of times they can go home for 36 hours and all. Hey, a cop's wife, you put up with a lot of things, especially in the detective division, all the crazy hours, you know.
Friend of the kid's holding out okay?
Yeah, she's fine. Patience of a saint.
I didn't eat dinner with my family for a long time, because you'd go in and you'd come back and you're cold and you're going in, and 12-hour days they were easy, 12 hours. That was an easy day.
Your father told me he's coming home.
So it was tough. It was a tough time.
As the letter was sent to him, Borelli feared that he and his family were being stalked.
I had a sense somebody was tailing me, but I couldn't make it. So I never went home the same way twice. I always found a different route to go home. Well, squaring a block is if you make 4 left-hand turns or 4 right-hand turns, you're going the same way you started. Now, if somebody is doing the same thing you are, they have no intention of going any place except where you're going. You're heightened, you're aware, you're concerned, and so you bring it home with you. You can't leave it at the station house. Your family life suffers. You may get, toward the end, you maybe get a little snappy with your wife and your children, and it's all stress.
He would just get more and more quiet, I think. That's the way my dad dealt with the stress and with not knowing and with the management of the men that are working under him. And I think the more intense it got, the quieter my dad became and the more introverted. And you didn't really know how to read him. My mom, more or less knew what was going on, but we didn't know, as teenagers, you just know that your dad is like in a bad mood or he's not talking, but you don't really know why, because you don't know what's going on, because my dad wasn't the type to tell you anything.
They didn't go anywhere without talking to me first, and their mother was right after them.
Sometimes my dad would come home and then sort of try to install himself once again into the family, yelling at you not to where you're going and what time you're coming home and who you're going with, and you sort of resent that.
I'll be home when I feel like it. What do you care? You're never home anyway.
The reason I'm never home is because...
I was in no mood to talk to anybody, so I must have been a real grouch during that whole time. I don't know how they put up with me.
10 weeks passed with no shootings and no real progress in the inquiry. Borelli put 85% of the task force on the 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift in the hope that officers would bump into the killer. Sergeant Joe Coffey and Marlon Hopkins were to patrol Queens and the Alphas, a club in Bayside.
I'm so drunk. Just hold on.
19-year-old Judy Placido was one of the few women who ventured out on Saturday, June 25th. Coffey and Hopkins passed the Elfus on their patrol several times that night. The son of Sam was keeping people off the streets. But Judy was determined to celebrate her graduation. Armed with her friend's driver's license as ID, she set out for the night with two friends, Debbie Volpez and Angela Delfino. They dropped into the Elfus shortly after midnight. For the next 2 hours, the girls drank and danced with friends, including Sal Lupo, a mechanic from Queens. Judy and Sal left the club at 3 a.m. and walked a block and a half to where Sal's car was parked.
So is that your car?
No, it's my brother's
I
car.
knew it was your brother's
Oh,
car.
come on. So I lied, but it's a hot car. Look at it.
Let me get in the driver's seat.
You want to drive?
Yeah.
You want to drive?
Let me in.
Okay.
It was a disco that was, as we know, that was frequented by young kids at those times. 1977, they had a drug culture, and as it turned out, these two kids they left the disco and sat in their automobile outside. You know, they were necking and what have you.
When she'd gotten into Sal's car, Judy felt uncomfortable. She reminded him about the son of
I
Sam.
don't know when he's going to show up. He just shows up.
The only thing that thwarted us from really considering the place more than patrolling it was the fact that it was too busy. It wasn't isolated. He hit isolation all the time.
I mean, look at the club. There ain't nobody in there tonight. Any other Saturday night, you got people lined up in there.
That Elfus was highly trafficked. And we said, okay, we'll look at it, but we weren't convinced that he was going to hit there. And he hit there.
What the hell was that? What the hell was that?
What's going on? I don't understand what's going on.
Just stay here, all right?
Where are you going?
Stay where you are. I'll be right back, okay? I'm gonna be right back. Stay there. Stay there.
A bullet had passed under Judy's scalp and lodged just above her temple.
Attention all units, shots fired. 45, 39, 211th Street, possible casualties.
Oh, you're kidding me!
6 different calls to 911 reported the shooting within 2 minutes. The sector patrol car was ordered to respond. The Omega task force picked up the call at the same time. Joe Coffey had passed the club only a few minutes earlier. He had unknowingly passed the killer's car on the Clearview Expressway.
I just got the call over the air, and we backed off the entrance ramp of the Clearview. He passed right by us. Is that incredible?
Coffey and Hopkins arrived 3 minutes after the shooting to find Judy lying where she had fallen. Seeing her head injuries, they decided not to wait for an ambulance. She was taken to Kings County in a patrol car.
Get to the hospital now. Judy, what about you? You're hurt. What down, man? What's with in the car? You go with them. She's dead.
Judy Placido had been shot a total of 3 times in the head and neck. Miraculously, she would survive. All 3 shots missed her spine and failed to penetrate her skull. Sal Lupo was lucky too. The bullet had only grazed his arm.
Stay there.
Once again, there'd been no witnesses to the shooting.
I don't know what happened, man. It was totally chaotic. It was just...
I think there was a lot of anger there that he had done it again, and we hadn't gotten much information to get a little closer to him. But you know that in your mind, you know that the more times he shoots and kills, the more the opportunity for him to make a mistake. But then you realize you don't want anybody else killed.
All right, did you see that girl with the hair at the bar? It was big and blonde.
On July 28, 20-year-old Stacy Moskowitz went for drinks at a restaurant in Sheepshead Bay with her younger sister Ricky and a friend. There she met 20-year-old Bobby Violantes, who worked in the men's clothing business. He'd graduated from high school that June, where he'd been voted best-dressed man in Brooklyn. They had a lot to talk about. Stacy loved clothes and worked in the offices of a shoe firm in the Empire State Building.
Nice to meet you.
They arranged to catch a movie and some food the following Saturday.
Thanks.
It was to be a fateful meeting. Now, nearly a year after his first killing and 5 months into the investigation, Borelli's team were no closer to finding the son of Sam.
We figured he has to come strike on the anniversary, you know? This psycho's got to do it. And we had a tremendous amount of people working that night into the early morning hours. Although I don't think there was a lover's lane or a parking lot that's secluded in the city that didn't have a police officer or a detective nearby.
Frustrated by the lack of progress, Borelli and Coffey came up with a plan to try to trap the killer. They were about to ask fellow detectives to put their lives on the line.
I'm looking for some volunteers.
So I got up one night in the task force office. I says, "We want volunteers." And they all looked at me. "What are we volunteering for?" I said, "We're going to put some people in cars, lovers lanes, and hope that the suspect comes out and shoots at you."
With a mannequin looking like a potential victim. So who do I have for volunteers?
Count on me, Cap.
I'll do it.
Cap.
So they all looked at me. But you know what? They all volunteered.
Thanks a lot.
3 days after their first meeting, Bobby picked Stacy up as planned from her home on East 5th Street, Brooklyn, at 8 o'clock on Saturday, July 30th. Before she left for a first date, her father reminded Stacy about the son of Sam and warned her not to go parking anywhere. But Stacy wasn't worried because the rumor was that son of Sam only went after brunettes. They planned to see New York at a movie theater in Manhattan and then get some food. That same night, Sergeant Joe Coffey was one of the many task force officers parked up in Lovers Lanes, lying in wait for the son of Sam.
Because he was striking in these, what they would call lovers lanes, you know, we decided, okay, we're going to stake out some lovers lanes.
All right, guys, no wisecracks.
Yeah, sure, Joe.
Right here for you. Yeah. We would put the mannequins in cars in all the lovers lanes throughout the city, basically in the Bronx and Queens.
I remember when we first started using the mannequins that we got from the garment area that were donated, of course, and we were out sitting in the cars, and the mannequins, normally you look at a mannequin, you're thinking of a fashion model, but these were the ugliest looking mannequins I ever saw in my life.
Oh, I must be goddamn crazy.
Behind the bad jokes, they were deadly serious. Coffey and a dozen other detectives were targets, risking their lives, waiting for the killer to make a move.
Look.
Don't you know the son of Sam's around? You guys should get out of here.
Police! Hey, get your hands up!
Borelli worked at task force headquarters until 2 o'clock that night. It seemed another Saturday had passed without incident. For the majority of the force, the investigation was their life, and headquarters had become their home. Many detectives would grab a few hours' sleep in the station house, only to get up and get back on the streets. Bay 17th Street, Brooklyn. Tommy Zano had been out with his date, 17-year-old Debbie Krushenko. Debbie had long, dark brown hair, and according to the papers, that made her a target for the son of Sam. She was nervous about parking, especially on a lover's lane.
Just let's get out of the light. Okay?
Why? What's wrong?
Because someone might see us.
Come on.
No, Tommy, please.
All right.
Don't be mad.
Uncomfortable under the street lamp, she made Tommy pull forward out of the light.
Someone might tell us.
Come here.
Hey, someone might.
A few minutes later, that space was occupied by Stacy and Bobby.
Hey, will you relax?
I am.
Come on.
Cecilia Davis was out walking her dog on Bay 17th Street that night. She passed the two young couples in their cars about 2:30 a.m. She also saw a man walking in the direction of the cars. His stare made her feel uncomfortable. 2 minutes later, there were shots. Borelli had arrived at his home in Lynbrook 10 minutes earlier. He got a call at 2:40. There'd been a shooting, this time in Brooklyn. A blonde girl and her boyfriend had been shot in their car.
Borelli.
I got the call. Joe Coffey had responded, and he said it was our guy, although we aren't absolutely sure. When you have a serial killer,
Okay.
unless there's a common thread that, the prior victims all worked for somebody, or they all went to a particular place, or so there was a common thread, then it becomes interesting in the victim. You go into detail. But because he was a random shooter, looking into Stacy Moskowitz's background and who her friends were, I didn't think was going to help us, so I really didn't get involved in that at all.
I saw him fire.
Stacy had been rushed to hospital a few minutes earlier with massive head injuries. Her date, Bobby Violante, was shot in the face. The shooting would blind him. Borelli hoped Tommy Zano, parked a few yards from the shooting, would be able to give a description of the gunman.
We were scared.
He actually didn't get a good look at him because, according to his statement, if I recall it correctly, he actually saw the fella coming across through the rearview mirror. I think he considered himself lucky because, according to his statement, he was parked right there where Stacy was parked, and he had moved up a little bit for whatever reason.
Just let's get out of the light, okay?
Why? What's wrong?
Because someone might see us.
And he saw this individual approach the car that Stacy was in, and I think he saw him go into a kind of a combat stance, point the gun straight out and fire.
Oh my God!
Although it was a quiet street, it was near a park area, and Borelli was sure there would be more witnesses.
I stayed there maybe 10 minutes. We saw the guy walk over to his car and make believe he was getting into it, and then walk around it and into the park. Another car pulled up behind me, and when I saw the headlights, I just pulled away, and I parked over here. I live right over here. I parked the car, and we went upstairs.
Well, we heard shots, and my husband said something's going on outside, and then we heard the car horn beeping like crazy. It didn't sound like a broken car horn. He says, I'm going to go outside and see what's happening. He says, meanwhile, call the police. So I called up, and I said, my husband thinks he heard a shot, can't talk, I'm so nervous.
The condition of the victims is the man is holding his own. I understand the Stacy Moskowitz has suffered a cardiac arrest and is being given emergency treatment for that, and we just are trying to check to find out her status at this time.
Did you ever think this would happen in your neighborhood?
No, never. I never did. This is a very quiet neighborhood. Nothing much really goes on around here.
What are you going to do about it?
I'm going to pray very hard and ask God to help to find this man so this can't happen again.
The death of Stacy Moskowitz, the sixth victim of the Son of Sam, would cause a media frenzy. Her funeral was televised while detectives stood guard in the vain hope of spotting the killer among the crowds.
Bowed by grief because of their loss, our mourners now turn to you.
Her date, Bobby Violante, had lost his sight in the shooting. His father didn't have the heart to tell him of Stacy's death.
The best thing to say was that she's stable at this time.
Will you be the one, Pat, who has to tell her that eventually?
I'm going to be the one to tell her.
After Stacy's death, the press turned on the NYPD and Chief John Keenan. How could the killings go on despite the efforts of thousands of police officers?
Things that we look for in investigating a homicide are witnesses, physical evidence, and motive.
Keenan, I don't know how many press conferences he gave where he constantly referred to the three things needed in an investigation, and we didn't have them.
The witnesses so far have been very scant, and there were very poor descriptions, or in most cases, no witnesses. The physical evidence has been limited to the fact that we know it's the same gun. And that's all. And the motive is a complete mystery to us.
And that killed some time, and that got him placated the press a little bit, but they constantly wanted pictures of the drawings.
This is making it difficult to anticipate his next move.
By this stage, many of Borelli's team were starting to despair, but Borelli remained confident that he'd be caught.
So which clown said we'll only catch him if we screw up? Hey, how you doing?
I have a word with you.
Okay.
We had this woman come up.
Mm-hmm.
Detective Bill Gardello from Brooklyn Homicide had taken a statement from Cecilia Davis, the woman who'd walked past Stacy the night of the murder.
She sees this guy walking up right past her. Gives her a stare. She keeps going and she sees some police officers.
She'd seen someone walking down Bay 17th Street just before the shooting and spotted an officer issuing a summons for a cream car parked alongside a fire hydrant.
She goes inside, closes the door. A couple minutes later, she hears the gunshots. Whatever I find, I'll keep you posted, all right?
It had taken her 10 days to build up the courage to come forward with the information.
So we went looking for the summons and we couldn't find it. It took us a couple of days to get the summons. And when we did, it was issued to a particular car. Now, it was a parking summons, so there was no name on it. But when you do a check on the license plate, then it comes up with the name, registered owner. And that's how Berkowitz's name popped up.
Borelli sent 2 detectives from Brooklyn Homicide, Eddie Zigo and John Longo, to chase up the summons.
Well, I got a call from my boss to go up to Yonkers and check out this fella who got a parking ticket. We figured this fella might have saw something that no one else had seen, and maybe we have another witness. We got up to Yonkers, and the first thing we normally do is check in with the local police. Told them we're going to be in the area investigating a fella called David Berkowitz, and they did a check, and they says no, the only thing they had on David Berkowitz, that he had a little confrontation with a neighbor of his called Sam Carr, and that possibly Sam Carr was alluding to the fact that he might have shot his dog. And now my antenna was really up, and now this David Berkowitz was sort of coming around to be more suspect than he would be a witness. When we got down to Pine Street, we parked our radio car, and there was David's car parked at the curb.
That's the car, John. Let me check it out. All right.
Echo 56. Careful.
Until I walked around on the street side and I looked into the back of the car, on the back seat, that's when I saw this duffel bag. And from the back, the street side, you could see the butt handle of a rifle sticking out. So that's when I decided, you know, I'd like to see what's in that bag. Then the little vent window was sort of loose, and I sort of pushed that window with a little force, and I was able to get my hand in and open the door. When I opened the door, I immediately went to the back door, and I entered the car, and I put my hand inside the duffel bag, and I pulled out the butt of this rifle, and I pulled it out, and I saw it was a semi-automatic weapon. So now I pulled it out on the side, and I reached in again, and I felt this metal, and I pulled it out, and they were clips, ammunition clips. But it had to be a lot of ammunition, and they were fully loaded and taped together military style, so you could swing them around and fire so many and fire the next round. And there were about 7 of those. Now I go into the dash compartment, and I found a clip of photographs that you take in like a 5 and dime store. And now I said, this has to be him. I put everything back in, and then proceeded to go under the front seat. Is when I found this letter, and there was a white envelope, a plain white envelope. So I then gingerly opened it, pulled out the letter, and I started to read. As I'm reading, unbeknownst to me, my body started to shake. I felt the blood surging through my veins. My partner saw me, so John Longo comes running over, and he says, Eddie, what's wrong? He said, what, are you getting a heart attack?
What's up, Eddie? What's the matter?
John, we got him. We got him. He says, who? We got who? I said, we got the son of Sam.
This is the letter he's going to drop.
The letter described Berkowitz's plan to machine gun teenagers at a nightclub in the Hamptons. Zigo's risk in breaking into the car had paid off. While Eddie Zigo went to get a warrant for Berkowitz's arrest, his partner John Longo watched the apartment with detectives Bill Gardello and John Falatico. Berkowitz stepped out of the block at 10:30 p.m.
Go ahead, 75.
That's him. That's him there.
Okay, okay. Let's go get him.
Desperate to avoid a shootout, detectives crept around the back of Berkowitz's car.
Freeze. Don't move. Get out of the car real slow. Put your hands up on the roof.
They expected a violent psychopath, but Berkowitz was calm and cooperative.
You know.
No.
When asked to identify himself, he smiled and said,
I'm Sam. David Berkowitz.
It was Berkowitz's car that led police to him. It had been ticketed for being parked by a fire hydrant on the night of the most recent murder, just a few blocks from the murder scene.
It was the first time in my career I would say that I was honestly a little annoyed with my superiors. Because, you know, I had gone through all that aggravation and all, and here they were up there, and nobody bothered to give me a call, you know.
Cab, it's for you. Jumpers.
I spoke to Eddie Zigo, and he said, it's him, we got the gun, we got everything, we got this, we got that, and everything.
Borelli's superiors had totally overlooked the men who'd spent the last 6 months searching for the son of Sam.
I mean, they could have at least said, hey, Joe, pick a couple of guys and meet us up there, you know. I would have picked some of the detectives who had the cases and gone up there with them, just to be there, you know, to see him, you know, see him firsthand. I think if I'd have had the people that were responsible for that, I might have given them a piece of my mind in very unpolite terms.
In the half-hour ride down to Police Plaza, Eddie Zigo would be the first to talk to the man who had terrorized New York for 6 months.
And he asked me, he says, why are you so quiet? So I says, oh, nothing. I says, usually when something like this happens, you know, it's, I usually call my wife, and this is one of the biggest things that happened to me, and I can't call her because she's not here anymore. And he says, is it really that big? And I said, yeah, David, this is big. He says, well, would you mind doing me a favor? I says, oh, no, what is it? He says, well, would you comb my hair? I said, what? He said, would you comb my hair? I think he said from right to left. He says, comb it from right to left, which I did. And I thought that was kind of weird, but I did it for him. And the inspector who was sitting in the front street turned around and shook his head. He said, I don't believe you, Ed.
They got him.
You know, finally it was over. It was a terrible thing. I mean, people had died and all, but the relief that you felt that, hey, geez, it's over, you know? We can relax. Congratulations, PD. Cops walking down the street, people were telling them what a wonderful job, you know, just a uniformed cop walking around.
Berkowitz was far from the monster the media had imagined.
Everybody was alerted. Word must have gotten out, some leaked or whatever it was, and everybody knew that we had him. And the press started coming, and they were all trying to get up into the chief of detective's office. If there was one, there were a couple of hundred newspaper men, television crews. It was bedlam. I mean, it really was.
Received the summons.
Suddenly, everybody wanted to be associated with the capture of the son of Sam.
The police department has done a superb job.
But it wouldn't bring back the 6 young men and women he had murdered.
But the nightmare's never over. She ain't coming back. He ain't bringing none of these kids back. Not only for myself, but for the other parents. I feel the same way.
It's difficult to describe. The relief, it was like if somebody took 100 pounds of lead and you carried it around for a year and a half, and all of a sudden somebody took that lead and lifted it off your shoulders because of all the hard work that had gone into it. I had 37 years in the police department, and I have never run across a case like it. We used to sit around at night, sometime when there was a lull, and we say to ourselves, gee, this guy is awful bright, you know, he's so smart, he's outwitted some of the best minds in the police department. He stayed away from us, we can't catch him. And then when we finally caught him, we found out just a plain, simple Joe, you know, he was soulful looking guy that everything he did was just accidental.
After his arrest, Berkowitz admitted to the killings, saying he'd been possessed by demons in the hope he'd be judged unfit to stand trial.
When the killer was caught, I was not surprised because the way he acted, because he did the typical thing that a psychopath does. He surrendered without a fight. He immediately tried to create a defense for himself, a psychiatric defense by acting crazy. He immediately, from the first instance, started to manipulate the situation.
All the detectives that had assigned cases like Marlin and some of the others, they started interviewing him. But during one of the breaks, I walked in because I was curious. And I looked at him, and he looked up at me, and he had a little smile on his face. And I asked him if he knew me. And he said, yeah. He said, you're Captain Borelli. I sent you a letter. You know? I didn't know whether to smack him in the face or what to do with him at that time, but I just walked out shaking my head. You know?
Berkowitz was brought to court in an 8-vehicle motorcade. Police know people are angry. They're afraid of violence. Berkowitz himself was in a special steel-plated prison van.
Berkowitz would ultimately admit to the 6 murders, but there were conspiracy theories that he'd acted as part of a satanic group.
Right after the arrest was made, there was an awful lot of thought that he was part of a conspiracy. There were others involved, and I never bought into that. He knew intimate details of every incident, and I'm absolutely convinced that he acted alone.
But 23 years on, victims' families still think others were involved. But Borelli has put that behind him. He's retired and moved out of the city to Long Island.
I forgot about all the aggravation that I had gone through. Took me the longest time after I retired to come down to just relaxing after being involved with this city for 37 years. Now it's just a memory, but at that time, it was a terrible situation to be in. At the expense of the tragedy of all those young people being killed. But I would imagine, and I know it's a fact, that after the case was over, my career kind of took off, and throughout my time in the department, I was always associated with the Son of Sam.
Borelli went on to... Ivan Robert Milat was the 3rd son of a Croatian migrant and an Australian mother. One of 14 children, he grew up on the outskirts of Sydney in an atmosphere of violence and fear. His father would beat him with a piece of 2x4. His mother slashed her son Boris with a knife and broke his arm with a tomato stake. She took an axe to an intruder who fled screaming, leaving 4 bloodied fingers on the windowsill. In the 50s, the sweet-faced boy became a thug. Cars and guns were his passion. As a teenager, Ivan graduated from stealing and breaking into service stations to armed robberies, kidnapping, and rape. He spent most of the 1960s in prison, 7 years, 2 months. He seduced his brother's wife, producing a child, and the brother twice tried to kill him. He seduced another brother's wife. He too came after him with a gun. All the brothers were capable of extreme violence. When Ivan married a young local girl, he would lead her into the quiet state forest of Belangolo and shoot kangaroos. She would later recall that she had got the impression he had done something wrong and would not tell her. When she managed to flee the sadistic marriage, he torched her parents' car for revenge. He couldn't understand why she had left. She'd been scared of him for some time, and his treatment of her had become extreme. If she defied him, he would punish her and beat her and pull her about by the hair. The smallest thing would send him into a rage. For sex, he liked to push her without warning over the kitchen table and sodomize her, a trick he said he'd learned in prison. In 1971, he picked up 2 young women hitchhiking from Liverpool to Melbourne. Over the course of a long weekend, he kept them tied up, threatened them with knives, and raped them. At least another 8 hitchhikers would encounter Ivan Milat. They would be abducted, robbed, sexually assaulted, tortured, and murdered. 20 years later, in April '92, Joanne Waters and Caroline Clark were 2 British backpackers on holiday in Australia. They'd left their motel in Sydney King's Cross to hitchhike toward Melbourne to look for casual seasonal work. Joanne Waters was 22. Caroline Clark was 21. Neither girl were known to be promiscuous.
Hey, it's the one. You got it.
As backpackers, they were instant prey for any predators who came upon them, safe targets who wouldn't be missed for some time. After traveling a few miles along the Hume Highway, Ivan Milat suddenly took a shortcut through Balangalo Forest and turned the car onto a dirt road. Joanne Waters would be stabbed in the heart and lungs 14 times, 5 of which would be savage enough to cut her spine and sever 2 ribs. Caroline Clark would be stabbed once and shot in the head 10 times. The bullets entering from 3 different angles, indicating her killer used her as target practice, moving her head between shots. The first shot would have killed her. The remaining 9 can only have fulfilled some kind of fantasy of being a hitman or executioner. Five months later, their skeletal remains were found by 2 cross-country runners in the dense Balangalo State Forest.
2 orienteers running in the Balangalo State Forest discovered the first body yesterday afternoon. This morning, as police resumed the search for clues, another badly decomposed body of a woman was found just 30 metres from the scene of yesterday's discovery. Detectives are in no doubt the women have been murdered, the killer making a feeble attempt to conceal the bodies. There was no sign of any murder weapon. It could have been dumped anywhere in the 5 kilometres of pine forest between the bush graves and the F5 freeway west of Bowral. Homicide detectives will have to wait for the results of a post-mortem tomorrow before they can establish if the bodies are those of missing British tourists Joanne Waters and Caroline Clark. Neither has been seen since April.
Over the next 5 days, 40 police searched a corridor 500 feet wide and 1.5 miles long. They did not find any more bodies, nor did they find the camping gear and personal items belonging to the 2 girls. Police issued a statement saying the forest was clean and wound down their investigation. Caroline Clark and Joanne Waters were the first bodies found, but the last to be killed. 13 months later, in October 1993, the forest gave up 2 more of its gruesome secrets.
The first body was discovered just after 1:30 this afternoon by a local man cutting timber in the Ballistics State Forest. Less than 3 hours later, more human remains were found off a nearby fire trail. Detectives say the skull and bones were less than 500 metres from where the bodies of murdered British backpackers Joanne Walters and Carolyn Clark were discovered in August last year. Police are investigating the possibility the remains are those of 2 Melbourne backpackers who disappeared while hitchhiking to Albury. Debbie Everest and James Gibson were last seen 3 years ago on the way to a hippie festival.
The next day, Superintendent Commander Clive Small, one of Australia's most experienced major crime detectives, was put on the case.
I got a call at work and it was asked by the then Region Commander to go down and assess the situation where these skeletons had been recovered down in Ballistics State Forest. I rang home, asked my wife to throw in a couple of shirts. I drove straight home, got them, said goodbye, and I'll be back later that night or the next morning, and then drove straight down to the forest, which is about 150 kilometres south of Sydney. When I got down there, it was, to say the least, chaotic. The media were there in full force. The police had set up an initial site, but trying to control the media and trying to get a search and control of the whole situation was quite chaotic at that time.
What are they doing here? They walked back from the white line. Get rid of them.
My assessment was that we needed to get more police, we needed to get a proper campsite set up, and we needed to get control of the media. We had a very isolated crime scene. We had victims who were backpackers and therefore isolated from their families and friends who knew about them. There was a long time between the murders and the police visitation at the crime scene, so a lot of evidence would have been destroyed.
We're working on the second one.
The 2 new bodies discovered were those of James Gibson and Deborah Everest, 2 Australians who'd gone missing 3 years earlier in 1989. James Gibson had been stabbed in the spine, the breastbone, both sides of the chest, and in the upper back. The zipper fly on his jeans was open, but the top button was still done up. Deborah Everest had been stabbed in the spine. There were several fractures in the skull, and there were 4 slash marks on her forehead. A pair of grey tights and a black bra with a stab wound in one of the cups was found nearby.
And where were the British backpackers found? It was about 100 metres just through here, sir.
In fact, we'll slip right through the whole area, right down through here. And let's take the timber about 500 metres further that way.
Sir, we need more men for that.
We'll get them. Let's go.
There were several things that were particularly chilling about the murders. It's quite clear that in a number of cases, at least, if not all the cases, the victims did not die immediately, but were alive for a period of time. The way in which the murders were actually executed were particularly vicious and calculating, and I think it showed a deal of time was spent at the crime scene, and all the victims, in my view, must have undergone horrific fright and fear before the murders actually occurred. I think what the crime scenes told me, and what the advice of psychiatrists and other people we spoke to told me, was that this was a killer who was particularly vicious, who was particularly cold, and who was particularly calculating. We had a serial killer who we believed would continue to kill until he was caught.
The next day, Task Force Air was set up in offices above a converted hat factory. The team was quickly assembled to deal with the many thousands of pieces of information that had already begun pouring in. The next task was to set up a public hotline and cooperation with the media.
Task Force Air.
From the outset, there was an enormous amount of information coming in to police sources. A lot of that was through the media, a lot of that was direct, and a lot of it was to local police. We had to make sure that we gathered all of that together.
The first priority was a search of the forest and a ballistics check on the gun.
Every Ruger .22 caliber rifle that's been sold in this country over the last 10 years.
2 weeks after murdering Deborah Everest and James Gibson, Ivan Milat got the chance to kill again. Paul Onions was a 24-year-old ex-British Navy sailor looking for a ride on the Hume Highway. His only possessions were a small pack containing a Sony Walkman and camera, and several items of clothing. For Milat, as in all the murders, a chance sighting was all he needed to select a victim.
That's your lucky day. Cheers.
It would take another 3 years before the meeting of Paul Onions and Ivan Milat would become a significant break in the backpacker murder investigation. By the end of October '93, 4 bodies had been found within 500 meters of each other in the Balangalo State Forest southwest of Sydney. In its first 24 hours, the toll-free hotline set up by Task Force Air had received over 5,000 calls. Police were inundated with leads and every piece of information had to be checked. To strengthen its investigation squad, Commander Small assembled a team of experts to examine the motives and the state of mind of the killer.
Further range saying you're going to escape, they're going to shoot.
All right,
But how far
why not shoot?
Commander Small's team of specialists came up with a profile that described the killer, who would be a loner, have a fascination with guns, be a semi-skilled worker and live on the outskirts of town, drive a 4x4 and motorbikes, be aggressive to authority, and have a history of bisexual activity. They also suggested there may be more than one killer involved, perhaps brothers, with the older one more dominant over the more submissive, yet equally sadistic younger brother. They would share a common interest in firearms and would have committed crimes together before. They suggested checking for weird semi-criminal families living in the area.
One interesting suggestion that was made was that we should consider going to schools that were in the southwest of Sydney, finding teachers, many of whom would be retired, who would have taught young males who would be around about 45 at that time, and ask them if they had any problem children in the school that they thought was going to turn out to be a problem in later life.
While police began combing local schools, the search for the weapon continued. The 10-22 Ruger rifle police were looking for was one of over 40,000 imported into Australia. But the shell cases were Winchester .22 subsonic rounds and were part of a batch distributed to a relatively small number of gun shops in New South Wales.
There was canvassing being done of gun shops. There was a tracing of the types of bullets and shells that were used, where there was a very substantial check done of the Winchester factory in Melbourne. All of those really contributed to a thorough investigation of good policemanship.
26 days later, police found a fifth body, buried nearly 3 miles from the previous killing site.
The search of the Balanglo State Forest was winding down yesterday when more human remains were found in the area known as Executioner's Drop.
The media went into a panic.
The backpacker murder hunt and forensic tests start soon to find the cause of death of a fifth body found in the Balanglo State Forest near Barrel. Police
New South Wales Police this morning continue the state's largest ever homicide investigation on the heels of yesterday's gruesome discovery.
We have what appears to be the almost complete skeletal remains of one person.
20-year-old Simone Schmiedel was last seen alive in January 1991 and was believed to have been hitchhiking from Sydney to Melbourne. In the grim parlance of serial murder investigations, yesterday's discovery was made at a location that's become known as Executioner's Drop.
It was covered with branches, leaves in a similar manner to the other four. We have simply just taken the top covering of the grave, if you like, and that has allowed us to make some very significant observations at this stage.
Simone Schmiedel's body was partially dressed with her skirt and undergarments pushed up around her neck. She'd been stabbed in the spine, which would have completely severed her spinal cord, paralyzing her but keeping her alive. She was then repeatedly stabbed in the front and back of her body. Pathologists described it as a frenzied attack, an act of rage. Police immediately extended their search. Another 40 officers joined the existing 60-strong search party in what was now known as Australia's backpacker graveyard. The murder inquiry was now the largest investigation of its kind in Australian criminal history. Near the skeletal remains were found a pair of pink jeans which did not belong to Simone. A cartridge box which once contained .22 caliber bullets, and a length of blue and yellow rope. The whole area was scattered with evidence, but what chilled police most was the remains of a brick fire and cigarette stubs. The killer was now obviously taking his time and experimenting with methods of death.
With serial killers, each incident is an experience for them, and they tend to, once they've completed it, say, now I did that fairly well, but how could I make it better next time? What could I do to do a better job next time? And so their patterns of behaviour become more ritualistic, more thorough, more detailed, and you could in fact see that sort of pattern emerging where they appeared to be spending longer times at the scene.
Find!
2 days later, victim 6 was found. Then, within a couple of hours, victim 7.
The personal side of these investigations, I think, are always very difficult to handle, irrespective of what you tell yourself internally. Members of the team do take it very personally. They do get a very strong sense of moral indignation about what's happened. They do tend to develop a strong empathy with the family and friends of victims. And it becomes a very emotional and a very draining thing.
This latest discovery was made by a police search team just after midday at the edge of the forest.
At this stage, the bodies are still in location they were found. I think it's fair to say that given that we now have 7 bodies recovered, and notwithstanding that we don't know the cause of death in the present case, that we do have a serial killer.
It was the first time police acknowledged what everybody already knew, and the media went into a frenzy.
Forensic experts are now checking dental records.
Flew into Balanglo State Forest yesterday, armed with the dental records of missing backpackers Gabor Neugebauer and Anja Habschied. Overnight examination of the
to confirm if the bodies are those of missing German backpackers Anja Habschied and Gabor Neugebauer, who disappeared from a King's Cross youth hostel almost 2 years ago.
This morning, New South Wales Premier John Fahey arrived at Belanglo, where he was briefed by police involved in the investigation. A short time ago, the Premier visited the site where Neugebauer's and Habshi's bodies were found.
The political pressure on Commander Small was now intense. The Premier vowed before the cameras to catch the killer and announced a reward for public information.
It is appropriate for a reward to be offered, and I want to announce a reward of $500,000.
Last night, they informed the victims' parents in Germany that the bodies were of their children. Task Force Commander Clive Small also confirmed that all victims discovered so far probably died of horrific stab wounds.
As a parent myself, I felt I had some understanding of what the parents and relatives of these victims must have been going through. And there's a sense in which you would like to get the media coverage toned down or cut out even completely for the sake of the relatives and the family, because they don't want to be reading about what's happened to their children day in and day out, or hearing different conspiracy theories and suggestions being made.
Gabon Neugebauer's body was found beneath a log, which took 3 detectives to lift, indicating it had been put there by more than one man. The young German had been gagged and strangled, his jaw was broken in several places, and there were 6 bullet holes in his skull. The zip on his jeans was open with the top button still done up. Anya Habshi had been beheaded, and the head kept as a souvenir. The medical examiner concluded the head would have been severed while she was in a kneeling position, as if in some form of ritual decapitation. The head would never be recovered, and psychologists believe Milat took it with him as a trophy. 4 bullets were recovered from inside Gabon Neugebauer's skull. After examination under a comparison microscope, the bullets and shell casing showed conclusively that the same weapon had been used in the killing of Caroline Clark. In less than a month, 5 kids had turned up dead, 3 in 1 week. The body count was now 7, and by December '93 it was apparent the investigation wasn't progressing very far.
When I was given the job, my initial reaction was probably, there's a good chance this won't be solved. And the reasoning behind that was, you know, the fact they were backpackers, the isolation, the time lapse, the degradation of evidence at the crime scene, the fact that there didn't appear to be anywhere to go.
All the others were buried deep, right? So, I mean, this guy was shot, then, got him, then he came in after her.
But what about the different...
Yeah, but it's the way the difference was that they were killed. Like, this one was shot, that one was bashed, that one was stabbed. It's got to be more than one person.
But hang on, what we've got to have is decapitations as well.
What Commander Small didn't know at the time was that 12,000 miles away in Birmingham, England, was the break he needed. That break was Paul Onions. When Ivan Milat picked him up at the gas station in 1990, the young Englishman backpacking himself around Australia was glad of the lift. Milat introduced himself as Bill, told him he worked on the roads, was from a Yugoslavian family, lived near Liverpool, and was divorced.
It's taken me a while to psych myself up for it.
Mate, you need to pick up your attitude a bit, I'll tell you. You really do.
By mid-afternoon, after leaving the southern town of Mittagong, Bill began acting strangely, varying his speed and looking in the rear-view mirror every few seconds. His demeanor changed, and his speech became aggressive.
Because I need to pull over. Just gonna get some tapes out of the back, okay?
Had a gut for your bloody attitude, mate.
Just stay there.
Onions was now feeling extremely uneasy. The Navy had taught him to read people and expect the bad in everyone. Everything inside him was telling him something was wrong.
What's wrong with you? I said stay in the car! Put on your bloody seatbelt! Now! Hurry up! Do it!
5 kilometers ahead, to the west, the bodies of Deborah Everest and James Gibson lay 3.5 weeks decomposed in a grave of leaf and twig. At Bowral, police took a statement, filed it and forgot about it. 5 months later, Paul Onions went back to England. It would be another 3 years before his role in the Milat case would become crucial. Two months after his last killings, Milat began a relationship with Chalinda Hughes. On their first date, he took her to see Basic Instinct and was embarrassed by the content of the sex thriller. To their friends and family, they seemed an odd coupling, particularly because Chalinda was black. The Milats hated blacks. For Ivan, there was stability in his life and the killings suddenly stopped. Five bodies had now turned up in less than 4 weeks. And with the 2 British girls found a year earlier, the total was now 7. The gruesome nature of the murders had shocked the country. Most of the victims had first been stabbed in the spine, paralyzing them, but keeping them alive while being assaulted and beaten, stabbed, bludgeoned, tortured, strangled, suffocated, shot, decapitated. The backpacker murderer was now Australia's most brutal serial killer, and the police were no closer to catching him. Of the thousands of calls received over the hotline, police had produced a list of 2,000 persons of interest. One of the leads folders was named Milat. The Milat family were local and exactly fitted the police profile. They were straight out of the movie Deliverance.
By January, the Milat family and Ivan Milat had in fact come well into focus in the inquiry. We had in fact received a number of calls from people who suggested that various members of the Milat family would make good suspects because of their fascination with firearms and handguns and continually carrying weapons in cars and this sort of thing.
Detectives called at Ivan's last known place of work. They checked the work records and found Ivan absent on every day the backpackers went missing. They checked his rap sheet, and it came up like a rash on the computer screen. But what intrigued police most was the 1971 charge of abducting 2 hitchhikers, tying them up and raping them. He picked them up on the Hume Highway outside Liverpool, drove on a few miles, then pulled onto a dirt road, produced a knife and threatened to kill them if they didn't have sex with him. Police tracked down one of the girls.
Oh, well, he said that he expected to assault one of us or he was going to kill us. All of the time that I was with him, I was afraid that he would kill me.
And who was the man who assaulted you?
Oh, Ivan Milat.
Then in 1979, 2 more women escaped to tell their story. One of them said it was Milat who abducted her as she hitchhiked to Canberra.
And he just closed his door, turned around and grabbed her in the front and said, "Okay, girls, which one of you wants it first?"
The women made a run for it and hid in the bushes.
Extremely lucky. That's extremely lucky. That, you know, wasn't. I think we were just the practice run.
Theirs could have been the bodies uncovered, as the Balangalo forest began yielding its gruesome secrets.
When I saw the record, you got a very strong feeling as this really could be the person. This really could be the guy we're after.
Ivan Milat was now a prime suspect. Commander Small deputized 5 detectives to work full-time following up the Milat leads. He also arranged for a surveillance team known as the Dog Squad to follow Milat and watch his house. He was put under 24-hour surveillance and his house and car were bugged. Everything told them they had their man, but they couldn't prove a thing.
The purpose of the surveillance was twofold. One was a concern that if he was this serial murderer, we didn't want him to go and murder someone else. But the second reason was also because we were concerned to know his movements, to get an idea of his pattern of behaviour and movements. And there were also a number of covert activities we wished to undertake, and before we undertook them, we wanted to know where he was.
The case was now receiving worldwide press. From England, police got a call on the hotline.
Hello. Is this New South Wales Police hotline? My name, Paul Onions. I'm calling from...
Onions told them the whole story of the man who had picked him up on the Hume Highway and had tried to kill him. He was sure the incident was connected to the backpacker murders. This report was also noted, filed, and promptly lost. 5 months later, it was found buried amongst the pile of discarded leads. Detective Gordon couldn't believe what he was reading. Here was a credible witness that could link the vehicle, the area, and the driver.
Yes. What is it? 2 independent reports of an attack on a British backpacker.
What was his name?
Paul Onions.
And where did it happen?
The Balangalo State Forest near the Hume Highway.
Take your time.
A week later, a surprised Onions was on a plane to Sydney. Police told him he'd escaped only 2 kilometres from the entrance of the Balangalo forest.
That's him. That's the one who attacked me.
Sir, Onions just given us a positive ID on Ivan Milat. Thank you.
With the ID secured, Commander Small stepped up the painstaking search for evidence on the murders. When the Nissan Patrol 4-wheel drive owned by Ivan Milat was found, its new owner was interviewed and showed police a bullet he had found under the driver's seat. It was a .22 caliber and matched the cartridge cases found at the Clark and Waters gravesite. Milat had sold the vehicle 2 months after the bodies had been discovered. Detectives then re-interviewed brother Alec Milat's wife.
They'd finished the conversation when the wife, just absolutely out of the blue, without questions being asked, said, "Oh, by the way, Ivan gave us this."
Ivan did give me this.
The backpack wasn't Australian. It was unique to Germany and belonged to Simone Schmiedel.
The backpack was in effect the first piece of hard evidence that we had. That caused us to firm up our decision to basically go in.
At 2 a.m. on May 22nd, 300 police set off on the 11 simultaneous raids. Police were still unsure if any of the brothers were involved, so all the Milat homes were to be hit at the same time.
When we decided to go in, there was a very high sense of tension. We knew that Ivan was certainly dangerous, and there were reasons to believe that other members of the family were also dangerous.
At 6:30 a.m., 50 armed police officers had surrounded Ivan Milat's home in Eaglevale. Chief negotiator, Detective Wayne Gordon, picked up the phone.
Hello.
Mr. Ivan Milat, is it?
Nah.
Is Ivan Milat there?
Nah, mate, no Ivan Milat here.
He's at the premises of 22 Cinnabar Street, Eaglevale.
Yep.
Mate, Detective Sergeant Gordon's my name. I'm a negotiator with the State Protection Group.
Police are around those premises, and they're in the possession of a search warrant.
To search the premises in regard to an armed robbery matter.
Now, Jay.
I want you to come straight out of the front door and walk straight up onto the front lawn.
Oh, yeah?
You'll find police officers outside the house who will then give you directions on what they want you to do. And when you leave the front door open, mate. Tell me, who's in the house with you?
Just my girlfriend.
Okay, mate. Listen, will you come to the door now?
Yeah, all right, mate. Just gives us a chance to get some pants on, eh?
Yeah, I will.
Ivan at first responded by claiming it was a joke and not accepting it. However, there were noises that were heard in the house that suggest things probably weren't as calm as he was making out on the telephone. We believe now that he was taking the guns out, or at least a gun, out of the car and hiding it elsewhere in the house.
Knowing Ivan's obsession with the Rambo films, police moved into position for a shootout. Detective Gordon rang again.
There's some sort of joke. You gotta be having me on, haven't you? There in a tick.
Ivan Milat, step outside of the house. Move. Get your hands on your head.
Step out of the house now. Put your hands behind your head.
Step outside the house. Move out of the house.
Down on the ground. Put both hands on your head.
Move forward. Move forward.
Behind your head now. Down on the ground. Down on the ground. Down on your head.
Down on your face, quick. Keep your face down. Keep it down. Clear. Make sure you
Against the wall.
Get the woman over there.
Against the wall.
Get the woman over there. Get the woman secured. Don't move. Keep him there. Frisk him. Make sure he's got nothing on him. Seize him. Stay where you are. Stay where you are, do not move, mate.
Good morning, Task Force Air. Sir, it's the command post at Eaglevale.
Thank you. Small here. Good. Very good. They've got him. I want the full search, Tim, and now I want the house completely pulled apart.
The search of the house took 4 days. Inside it was an Aladdin's cave of incriminating evidence. Hidden inside a cavity in the wall, they found the disassembled parts of the .22 Ruger rifle. Bullets fired from the rifle would later match those found at the murder scenes. Inside a work bag, they found a 12-inch Bowie knife, and guns of all kinds were taken from every room. In a wardrobe in one of the bedrooms were sleeping bags belonging to Simone Schmiedel and Deborah Everest. A framed photograph of Chalinda Hughes showed her wearing Caroline Clark's striped Benetton top.
Ivan remained with us at the house while the search was being conducted for a considerable period, and then later he was taken to the Campbelltown police station where police started to conduct an interview with him. After about one moment, he declined to be further interviewed. has never said anything to this day.
This man is a serial killer. Ivan Milat cruised the Hume Highway luring young backpackers to their deaths. The middle-aged road worker who called himself Texas and Bargo Bill, who liked to dress up as a cowboy, savagely killed 7. But for Milat's girlfriend, there is only disbelief.
Well, I didn't believe it, so I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept what they were saying.
Were you shocked?
Yeah. And just thought this was a horrible mistake.
His younger brother, George, knew Ivan was violent, but never thought he was a killer.
Ivan's told me that quite a few times. Don't take a life, and he's not the only one in my family who said, don't take a life. Give him a good bloody eye. And my old man said, you're going to give him a eye, give him a good one. Really built the hell out of him, but don't kill him.
Ivan Milat was charged with the murders of the 7 backpackers and the attempted murder of Paul Onions. The biggest ever murder trial in Australia would last nearly 3 months. Ivan Milat pleaded not guilty to all 8 charges. The prosecution's first witness was Paul Onions, who immediately identified Ivan as the man named Bill who had tried to kill him. Ivan's defense was simple. He denied everything. When faced with questions he could not answer, he would incriminate his brother Richard and say, someone's trying to make me look bad.
In a desperate bid to escape the charges, Milat even tried to blame one of his brothers, but the jury rejected the defence suggestion that Richard Milat might be the murderer.
There are 2 theories. One that he was alone, the other that he was with somebody else, maybe a member of his family. His brother Richard has been mentioned. Brother Richard denies that. I think Ivan acted on his own. I think he was that sort of guy. All the evidence to me pointed to him being a loner, and I don't think Ivan would have entrusted him to bring him along.
I've got no doubt that at least some members of Ivan's family believed that he was doing some horrible, nasty things to some people. But I don't know that they thought it was murder. Rather, I believe they thought that it was more a case of him simply raping women, which some people did not have a problem with.
The jury returned a verdict of guilty on 7 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder.
Justice David Hunt told the jury he entirely agreed with their verdicts and immediately moved to sentence. His voice cracking with emotion, he said Milat's callous indifference to suffering and complete disregard of humanity is almost beyond belief.
For each murder, Milat got life. In his sentencing, Justice Hunt said he did not believe Milat had acted alone.
It's always nice to get a 100% clear up and clear every matter up. Realistically, that's not always practical. The most important part here is that we had a person in Ivan Milat who was a serial killer who would have gone on killing until he was caught or died. He's been caught. He'll spend the rest of his life in jail. He'll never see daylight again. And that's where he should be. It does live with you for some time. It's not that you think about it every day, it's that from time to time you get a flashback, if you like, or some other case will come up which prompts you to remember or think about it, and you just say, I wish I could have gone that extra couple of 100 yards and just provided a complete closure for those members of the family. I think the saddest part of the case for me is the length of time the families of the victims had to go before they finally knew what happened to their children and that a person had been arrested and charged and was going to go to jail for life. There was some relief. They could get on with their own life now, knowing what had happened.
There are 16 other unsolved murders police believe Ivan Milat may be responsible for. Unless significant evidence comes forward, or Milat breaks his silence and talks, they will remain unsolved. from the town of Winter Garden stopped to pick up a woman hitchhiker. The woman was Eileen Warnos. The job of investigating Spears' death fell to the Orange County Sheriff's Department and Detective Jerry Thompson.
What do you got here?
It's a mess, huh? Gosh.
Wow. But no clothes or anything, just the cap?
Yeah,
just as you've
yeah.
seen.
Looks like he's been here a little while, too.
Well, we discovered his body in the woods. It was a remote area off of US 19 in Citrus County. And he was unclothed, decomposed, mummified state, and the only clothing he had on was a ball cap. You're thinking about preserving any and all evidence that's there. You start thinking about the investigation, think about identifying the body. Is there going to be identification present there? Is it going to be a person that you don't have any idea who he is or who she is? We had some unusual things recovered at the crime scene, condoms, etc. And he kind of led us to believe that at least some female involvement was there. And a lot goes through your mind. It was difficult, to know you have somebody laying there dead that's someone's loved one. It does have an effect on you.
Spears was a divorced father of 2. He operated heavy equipment on construction sites. He'd been shot 6 times by a .22 caliber pistol. There was no obvious reason for anyone to want to kill Spears. Everybody who knew him seemed to like him. Even his divorce had been amicable.
We identified that David Spears was driving a truck at the time he was last seen, and we got a description of that truck and put it out again on the statewide teletype network and discovered that it had been recovered prior to his discovery in Marion County. It told us that whoever was involved in the murder case actually was with him in his vehicle at the time and had left there after his murder and driven away in his truck.
Thompson had less to go on than Kelly, but felt that whoever had been in the truck with Spears was almost certainly the killer. What kind of a person would that be? He consulted a psychological profiler who looks at the same evidence as the police, but from a different perspective.
We became involved in the investigation after the David Spears homicide. When you have a crime, you have anybody in the whole world that could have committed it. If you can sit at a group and everyone can agree that the perpetrator is male or female, you cut the population of suspects in half just with that one estimation. Because of the way the victim was lying and that he was nude and he had his baseball cap on still, what we thought had taken place was that he had taken the clothes off himself and then put his baseball cap back on, and that the perpetrator would be a female.
You ready?
Yeah.
The ability to lure the person into the wooded area and have them disrobe would be more of a woman type of crime.
What are you doing?
We saw the perpetrator of this crime as a murderer who robbed, not a person who was taking these men with their vehicles to get their personal belongings, their effects, their money. It wasn't a robbery that people just ended up getting killed. It was a murderer who robbed.
As Dale Hinman began to profile Spears' killer, In Daytona, Bob Kelly's own system of profiling, his trawl through the world of vice, had led him to a stripper and prostitute named Chastity. It had been 6 months since Richard Mallory was killed, and Chastity came the closest so far to fitting Kelly's picture of the murderer. She was 27, was from a broken home, and had been working in the sex trade since she was 15.
Selling cheap sex.
I recognize this man.
And that's what Mallory was all about. And he was what she was looking for, and she represented everything he wanted.
Chastity at first denied knowing Mallory, but eventually she admitted that he was a regular client, one of many, but one that took a special interest in her. They'd met about a month before he died. He'd paid her $100 for sex and fell for it. He wanted her all to himself.
A lot of the little indicators pointed that Chastity was involved in his death. She was here in the Daytona Beach area. She had been seen on several occasions with a gun, a .22 caliber pistol. There were other indicators that she had some problems with Mallory, and she even bragged to her boyfriend that she was involved in Mallory's death.
Chastity in the room.
Convinced Chastity was Mallory's killer, Kelly brought her in for questioning, but she denied anything to do with his murder.
About your relationship with Richard Mallory?
Quite often, you know, you're very happy that you're in this seat and they're in that seat. I wouldn't want to be in the position of have to be interviewed for a murder. She said that she was involved with Mallory, that she had had sexual activity with Mallory, but that she did not kill him. And it was after that interview that we kind of started to believe that maybe she didn't commit the murder. It was the worst moment because we had put so much work into bringing it to that point in the investigation, and then you realize that you've done all that for nothing.
So stop wasting my time.
Let her go.
When it started to break down, I wouldn't say you're depressed because last thing you want to do is put somebody that didn't commit a murder in jail. But now you've got to start from square one and start looking for the person that actually committed the murder.
Bob Kelly, after clearing his chief suspect, hit a low point.
I think it's easy to get sour. I think it's very easy to not put everything in the right perspective. It has to get to you. I mean, there are times when you can't help but take it home.
His wife couldn't give him the new ideas he needed, but she did help.
Looks like you could use another one of these.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Most of us have learned to be able to put it aside and go home and shut off and be with your family. If you continue to bring it home, it's going to cause problems.
I really thought we had something.
She's been very good about me working homicides for all this time. I've been working homicides for about 14 years now. And if you don't have somebody that understands, you're not going to last. And I hope and I try to just realize how good I have it, how well things have gone for me compared to how poorly things go for other people.
300 miles apart, two detectives, Bob Kelly and Jerry Thompson, were investigating. But neither knew about the other, and neither had considered a serial killer. But Eileen Warnos was about to kill again. Richard Mallory, David Spears, both dead. In Citrus County, Jerry Thompson, while checking neighboring counties' homicide records, discovered a naked male body had been found 5 days after Spears had been killed. His car had been stolen and abandoned.
We were in Sarasota doing the background investigation on David Spears, and we learned that Pasco County had recovered a male body off the interstate.
At least one resident near where Conger's body was found.
This time, the dead man was Charles Carskadden from Chapmansboro. He'd been shot 9 times in the chest and back at point-blank range. Carskadden had only just gotten engaged to be married.
Once you have 2 or more victims, you start looking for that classifies a person as a serial killer.
An autopsy report released today shows a bullet killed the man found dead in the Ocala National Forest, but deputies won't say how many times he was shot. Deputies believe the man is 50-year-old Troy Eugene Burris of Ocala, but they're not yet certain.
3 weeks later, Eileen Warnos struck again. The victim was Troy Burris. Jerry Thompson was well aware that if detectives had caught the killer by now, Burris would still be alive.
I don't think you blame yourself. You start, what can I do to prevent another one type feeling. Have I done everything I can do? I don't know if it's blame, it's just questioning yourself.
Detectives from the different counties set up a task force, and the psychological profiling became more detailed, not only of the killer, but of the victims.
The essential criteria that we brought to the table each time that we looked at it was that it would be a male associated with a vehicle on some relatively major highway and above the age of 30, always driving alone.
That was a good description of Peter Seams. It was about 2 weeks after Burris had been found, and Seams, a 65-year-old missionary, left home in his Pontiac Sunbird to drive to a Christian outreach meeting. He was a kind man and in the habit of picking up hitchhikers. He was never seen again, except by a predator.
All of the people that were associated with the task force saw the perpetrator of this crime or this series of crimes to be a predator, because if she wanted just money, then she could have waited till people parked their cars at rest stops and broken in.
It makes you terrified that the person responsible could keep killing people before you were able to catch them.
Peter Seams was to become the 5th victim of the serial killer. And even though his body was never found, his Pontiac Sunbird provided the most important clues so far. Rhonda Bailey, who lived on a quiet street, was sitting on her front porch with a cold drink.
Are you all right? Are you all right?
She was confronted by 2 hysterical women.
Are you all right?
She wanted to help, but soon realized this is no ordinary traffic accident. The driver and passenger had something to hide.
Forget it. You are absolutely...
One woman was frantically wiping down the windshield and dashboard.
What are you doing? I'm doing...
Bailey realized there was a lot more to this than a car running into a telegraph pole.
Stay out of it and you get out of my face! Don't make
She called the police, and they quickly established the car belonged to the missing Peter Seams. Crime scene analysts were soon collecting evidence.
Got some bloody glass I'm gonna collect.
There's the pressure to solve the case and get a conviction, but I'm outside that loop. I have the pressure to collect the evidence and make sure I don't screw up the evidence in collecting it and getting the best evidence. We may pick up 100 objects, and 90 of them don't really have any value, but at that time, we don't know.
And I got some blood behind on this side.
On the door rest of the driver's side was a bloody palm print. And Wanda Bailey was able to help the police build photo fits. Those and the palm print finally gave the investigation the focus it needed.
The 9th middle-aged white man to be found shot to death in the past year.
That didn't stop the killing, though. September 12th, Dick Humphreys, 56-year-old from Crystal River in Marion County, a private detective, shot 7 times.
The car was found miles from his body.
The killing was getting more frequent, more routine.
At that point in my career, I guess every phone call was potentially bad, and you had a bad feeling about it until you knew it was family or some friend.
Meanwhile, back in Daytona, there was Bob Kelly. He was still grappling with Warnos's first murder, Richard Mallory's, still unable to discover any motive or any clues. And yet not realizing that his case was the first of a series of brutal murders.
Say, Bob. Hey, Bruce, how you doing? Good, how are you? Good to see you. What brings you down here? Huh?
Then he had a visit by a colleague from another county.
Oh, yeah? Things here. Things are good. Things are good. I got one homicide. Yeah, that sounds
They had a lone male found in an isolated area, dead, shot several times, mostly with a .22 caliber handgun. The ones that were fully dressed or dressed had their pockets pulled inside out. The car was found 10 to 20 miles in a different location. There were men traveling by themselves. It just went on and on that they were pictures of Mallory's situation.
Yeah, send those over to me. I'll call you right back after I get them.
Kelly hadn't even known about the detectives in the Inter-County Task Force, but now he contacted them, told them about Mallory, and got a fax of the photo fits. Now he was in on the hunt. In less than a year, 7 men had died. The latest, on November the 11th, was Walter Gino Antonio, a 60-year-old sheriff's assistant from Coker in Dixie County, married, shot 4 times.
All right, Jerry, let's take a look at what we got here.
Almost a year after he'd taken on the Mallory case, Bob Kelly found himself on a team of detectives from 5 counties, all looking for the same killer. The task force had to work together to stop the killing.
Steering wheel? Yeah, steering wheel. Nothing in the trunk. The trunk was clear.
No one person was more in charge of the task force than the other, and we all had a vote as to what actions we were going to take. And the majority ruled most of the time.
Everybody came there prepared to work, ready to work, knowing the crime facts. It was unbelievable cooperation. Probably some of the better that I've ever seen.
All right, Jerry, we're looking at 7
That didn't mean there weren't disagreements. Bob Kelly, for instance, wanted to get the media involved and to give them photo fits. Jerry Thompson wanted to keep the general public out of it.
We'll weed through the bogus ones. We need the help.
We wanted to do whatever we could do to try to solve it.
You know what's going to happen?
It's a tough decision because you've got several factors. You don't want to give out everything you have, but in the same time, you've got to start making the public aware of what's going on. I think you've got to put people's safety number 1, and then number 2, what can we gain by doing this? Where can we go? What kind of leads can we start to develop?
I was probably the only one that was not in favor of releasing them at that point in time. I just didn't think it was the right time to do it. I didn't think we had enough facts gathered at the point, but it worked out.
Sheriff's Department, may I help you, please?
The photo fits went out, and the calls came in their hundreds.
Yes.
R-E-E.
When you start telling people that you've got a female serial killer, it's definitely going to bring out a lot of different reactions from the news media, from the public. So, I mean, we were aware that we were going to start getting not only good leads, but we were going to get a lot of stuff that was of no value that we were going to have to try to eliminate and sort through to determine where to go with it.
You have a name?
For one of the photo fits, there were 3 main names: Susan Blanovich, Cammie Green, and Laurie Grody. For the other, there was one, Tyria Moore. Since most of the calls came from around Daytona, it was worth assuming that that's where the women were. Bob Kelly suggested checking the Daytona pawn shops for belongings of the murdered men. And sure enough, they found Richard Mallory's camera and radar detector and a pawn shop receipt with a thumbprint on it. The name on the receipt was Cammie Green, a false name, of course. The next move was to go to the state fingerprint files in Orlando. The state's fingerprints analysts had the job of putting a name to the print on the receipt. They ran it through the computer. Nothing. That meant a grueling manual search.
My partners, David Perry and Debbie Fisher, were a little bit reluctant, as I was, to do this because we were looking for the proverbial needle in the haystack. The only problem is that we didn't even know if the needle was in the haystack. We would be looking from half of the fingerprint cards in the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, which is tens and tens of thousands of fingerprint cards. And there was still a tinge in our brains that we're never going to find this. I was in the files for 15 minutes, and all of a sudden,
David.
There she was.
David!
It was almost an undescribable feeling. First, it was like I couldn't breathe.
What? David, come here. You've got to check this.
It was just, my head started pounding, I couldn't breathe. I was very excited. It was like, this just cannot be happening this quick.
Got it. You really did.
This was just too easy for the phenomenal task that we thought we were undertaking.
What's the name? What's the name?
And it said Eileen Carol Warnos.
All right, everybody, listen up. We got a positive ID on our killer, Eileen Carol Warnos. Right.
Now they had a face with a real name on it. All that was left was to find the actual woman, and to find her before she killed again. Eileen Carol Warnos. From the hundreds of phone calls the task force received, several mentioned seeing a woman resembling the photo fit in some of Daytona's biker bars. She was said to like the biker's lifestyle, but the detectives would need to know a lot more than that.
Certainly there was a sense of knowing you were close, you knew what you had, you knew that you had the person that committed the murder, but now you got to prove it. And that's always the hard part.
And the hard part calls for hard men. Undercover cops, led by Mike Joyner.
I try to live the life or get in the minds of people who commit crimes or try to get to where I can think like them. Besides looking different, acting different at times, I'm just a normal human being like the rest of them.
Mike Joyner was a narcotics investigator in Citrus County. Probably the best narcotics officer I've ever been around. He can fit in any situation. If it's a biker bar, he can adapt to the biker mode. If it's something in a suit, then that's the way he goes.
God gave me a talent to do this job. I believe with all my heart. I use it to the best of my ability. I don't want to disappoint him, myself, or my family. So I rely on him to give me the strength to act the way I should when I'm around these people.
We still had a lot to accomplish. We didn't know where she was located at, and that was a fear of ours, that there would be more victims before we could find her.
Mike Joyner and his partner dressed for their parts and set themselves up in the Last Resort, one of the most notorious biker bars in Daytona. But after days of drinking beer and shooting pool, there was no luck. Until a woman Joyner recognized sat down at the bar. It was Warnos.
Myself, I was very relieved we found her. It was more of a rush type relief, like here she is, thank you, we finally found her. The adrenaline, yeah, you're pumped because you're looking at somebody that's already killed 7 people. But it's like, whew, finally, we got her in our sight. Maybe we can stop this killing after all.
We were elated that we now knew where she was at. She was now under our control. And even though, we wanted the case a little more solid at the time, We knew that we knew where she was at, and we would do everything in our power to keep her from killing someone else. All the people that was undercover at that point in time was in danger.
If any undercover officer ever tells you they're not scared, he just told you a fat-ass lie, okay? So every undercover officer's scared.
What are you gonna make?
You're in my way.
We were shooting pool. I mean, everything's going fine. I bought a beer, bought her cigarettes. I walked around her to get to the other side of the pool table, and I think I bumped her. When I walked by her, she hit me across the back with a pool stick. And I turned around, what the hell, what's that for? She says, I don't know, let's dance.
Who do you think you are talking to me? To me like that?
Mike was told not to get in her alone in a vehicle with just him and her, that somebody would always be with them. They would always be in the public, because, we knew she had killed all these people, and yes, he was potentially a victim.
Before I go, I just want to...
You have to portray yourself as bad as they are. So look into their eyes, and how do you feel? When you get close to a serial killer, you absolutely do want to win and do your job.
I think you need to go get us a couple more beers. How about today, maybe?
She could pull the trigger just as good as a man can. I mean, just because she's a woman, it didn't make a rat's ass to me. She could kill quick as anybody. I wanted more than anything to catch them. Enough lives have been lost. It had to stop somewhere.
Come on, quit talking about a shower.
As Joyner was trying to work his way into Warnos' good graces, Bob Kelly outside was keeping an eye on things. The whole point of the undercover operation was to gather enough evidence to arrest Warnos and get her convicted. And like any good undercover job, it was secret, even from the local Orange County police. So when a patrol car pulled up at the last resort, the whole project threatened to collapse. Somebody had seen Warnos there, recognized her from the photo fit, and called the police. If the police arrested her now, they might not have enough evidence to keep her, and she could disappear.
I got on the phone to a supervisor with the Port Orange Police Department and asked them to please allow Warnos to remain in the pub and to back away, because we had her under surveillance and that we were watching her. And for about 30 seconds, we were terrified that they were going to arrest her, because we wanted to follow her. We wanted to see where she might take us for evidence purposes. And Port Orange agreed. They had no problem at all. Supervisor radioed to her 2 uniformed officers to just go ahead and back out and not take any action.
You got to get going.
We got to go now?
You got to call. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
There you go, huh?
That was close.
Yeah, buddy.
Constantly played the jukebox. Just constantly. She was very emotional at times. A song would come on and she would get very sad about it. And then another song would come on and she'd get real hyper about it. Drank beer all the time. I mean, I've been around a long time and I've seen a lot of things, but I ain't never seen one woman drink no more beer than that woman can drink now. I thought I was pretty stout at it, but I couldn't hold a bucket of water to her now, because she's good drinking.
Yes.
After 3 days of continuous drinking, Warnos told Joyner she'd spent the night at the bar sleeping on an old car seat. Her money was running low, and her girlfriend, Tyria Moore, had left her and left town. She was in the mood for a new adventure. That night she would have the opportunity. The last resort was giving a pig roast for 1,000 bikers.
We were in the bar drinking again, and we've been drinking for 3 days now. How was I feeling? I knew when I got through this detail, somebody's going to have to put me in detox, but I had drank more than I had drank last year in 3 days. I was tired and wore out. My partner was tired and wore out.
More beers.
I had found out about the biker party. And my concern was if we had 100, 150 more bikers come in, and Eileen all of a sudden seen another man with more money than I had, she would go to him. If she got on the back of a bike, there's no way this Baylor's team would ever know. That was one of the biggest concerns, that when I went to the restroom, I relayed that to my backup team.
The decision was made that we just couldn't take the chance that she would get on the back of a motorcycle and be gone. And the chances of her disappearing were probably pretty great. So we decided to move in and make an arrest.
If you go back up here.
This was very definitely Plan B, but the task force was well prepared for it. They'd found an old outstanding firearms warrant against Warnos, and that's what, in this police footage of the actual arrest, they were serving on her now.
Hey, my name's Jones, man. What's wrong? My name is Investigator Jose with the Sheriff's Office, Volusia County Warrants Division. Yeah, let's see some identification. I ain't got nothing, man. Let me see some identification. I ain't got
At the same time, Joyner, when he was also arrested, had to keep playing his part. She trusted him, and he might be needed again.
I don't think she ever suspected me of being a law enforcement officer. I really don't. I mean, we got arrested together. They put us in the back seat of the car. We were talking back there.
I want to know what the hell is going on here.
I'm sure after being in jail a couple of days and coming around, she knew what time it was then.
We had the murderer, but we couldn't prove it. If we had to go to trial on what we had that day, you couldn't prove that she'd committed those murders.
Warnos was finally where the task force wanted her, up to a point. She was in jail all right, but on the not very serious firearms charge. She had no idea she was suspected of the murders. As for evidence, the stakeout hadn't been fruitless. At one point, Warnos had shown Joyner the key to her storage lockup and told him where the lockup was. So, after the prison took her possessions, all Kelly needed to do was pick up the key and drive out to see what she had. She had plenty, though very little of it was worth much. They were odds and ends mainly, but most of them were traceable to the murdered men. They were something solid to take to court, and they were also a gift to a psychological profiler.
When you look at the types of items that she kept and took and maintained, many of the things were not of particular value. The kind of things that she kept to me were much more a trophy of a person who had overcome and won, as opposed to somebody who avoided being a victim themselves.
But as evidence, Warnos's trophies were like the bloody palm print on Peter Seam's car, circumstantial. The most the print could really prove was that she had been in the car, not that she'd killed Seams. That and the trophies might be enough to convince a jury, but there was an outside chance they might not. What the strike force wanted was watertight certainty. The strike force wanted a confession, and they had the key to getting one. Tyria Moore. In a Daytona motel room, a team that included Jerry Thompson and Mike Joyner sat with Warnos's former girlfriend and, with her, developed a plan for persuading Warnos to confess.
Special that you have to do, all right?
Moore was cooperative, and not just because of a threat of arrest as Warnos's accessory. Her 5 years with Warnos had been turbulent, and she was afraid of her.
Just a regular conversation. I'll take care of me.
Tyria Moore was a personable person. Interviewing her, you could tell that she was not directly involved in the murders.
Ty was very much happy to get Eileen out of her life. Ty was scared to death of Eileen Warnos. She was very much intimidated by her. Tyria was very much a follower, not a leader. And Eileen Warnos was very much a leader. If she couldn't be in control, she didn't want no part of it.
The equipment's going to pick everything up.
I think Ty was, she was very much relieved that at least she was with the cops and working with the cops and not having to run from the cops.
A lot more phone.
Moore phoned the prison and left a message asking Warnos to phone her back on the motel number. The detectives wanted Warnos to confess, and they hoped that Moore could steer the conversation to the subject of the murders. They fed her questions. What follows is the police tape of the actual conversation.
Hey, Ty?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Nothing. What the hell are you doing?
Nothing. I'm sitting here in jail.
Yeah, it's what I heard.
What are you doing down here?
I came down here to see what the hell's happening.
Everything's copacetic. I'm in here for carrying a concealed weapon back in...
It should have been simple. Warnos knew Moore knew about the murders, and she didn't know she herself was suspected. But she also thought a prison phone would be bound to be tapped and wouldn't touch the subject. The plan was going nowhere.
You know, I don't think there should be
It was very stressful. It was hot, it was humid. We were confined to a motel.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
Hours became days. Warnos by now would talk about the murders, but only to deny any involvement. After 3 days, Thompson and Joyner decided on a new tactic. If Warnos thought the police were after Moore for the murders, would she confess to save her former lover? Moore gradually made Eileen Warnos feel guilty.
Do whatever you gotta do. I love you so much.
I know that.
I'm willing to give up my life. I don't care anymore. Don't cry.
Well, quit crying and I won't.
They both became upset. Warnos suddenly went from cold-hearted killer to a concerned lover.
It's still long.
Aw. How do you hope you find somebody so good? I bet you
Eventually, she agreed to talk to the police and confess to the killings.
No, I don't.
She'd said she'd tell the police the truth.
There's nobody in this room but me.
Bye.
It had worked.
Well, it was very rewarding that we had done all this work for months and that she was going to admit to the cases that she was involved in. And it was just a good feeling.
The next morning, as promised, Warnos told the police everything.
We were very, very enthusiastic that we got a confession. I mean, there's no getting around that. But the work's half done. I mean, we know we got a lot more to do. At this point, we can probably relax a little bit more because we're not working 15-hour days. So now you can slow down a little bit. The person that's committed the murders is in jail. She's not going to kill anybody else. And now it's a methodical, day by day, let's get the job done, and you can probably cut it down to 12-hour days. When I first saw her, when I first realized who I was looking at, I mean, she did fit the bill of what I was looking at as a serial killer. She was a cold, hard individual, and she just doesn't fit into what society believes should be the norm. She doesn't go home every night. She doesn't have a normal family. She does what she has to do to survive, and if that means killing somebody, that means killing somebody.
Eileen Carol Warnos, 34, grew up in Michigan. Her father, who left her teenage mother before Eileen was born, was convicted of child rape and later killed in prison. Her mother disappeared when she was 6 months old, and she was raised by her heavy-drinking grandparents. Sex came early and frequently, especially after she learned that men would give her things in return for it. Pregnant at 14, child taken away. A working prostitute not long after, known to be violent. 2.5 years for armed robbery. Sex, violence, and robbery came together when she enticed, killed, and robbed 7 men in 1 year. America's first woman serial murderer.
It was justifiable homicide.
Although by the time of her trial, a year after her arrest, she was declaring her innocence.
She was very clear and articulate in her testimony and appeared to know what she was doing. She thought she could fool the jury. She thought she had a chance to fool this jury. And when she found out she didn't, she was mad.
Scumbags of America. I was raped. I hope you get raped.
That's not the way the jurors...
The trial lasted 3 days. The jury gave its verdict on January 16th, 1992.
We, the jury, found the defendant, Eileen Carol Warnos, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder.
Safely kept.
And the judge delivered the ultimate sentence.
You, Eileen Carol Warnos, be electrocuted until you are dead.
I mean, you're happy that you get a conviction. You're happy that she's sentenced. You know, you want to see people get what they deserve, but you know, it's still a person that's now being sentenced to die. If I was a victim's family member, I think those people get a lot more out of the fact that someone dies in the electric chair. To me, it's just part of the job. It's part of something that's the punishment that the state has set forth, and I agree with it. I don't get any special satisfaction out of it, though.
I could easily see that if she hadn't been arrested when she did, that this would have gone on, and many other men would have become victimized, and as a result, many other families would be missing the man in their life.
Well, I guess the good thing is when you identify who the actual killer is, and you bring closure to not only the case, but to someone's loved ones, their family. And they don't have to lay awake at night wondering who killed their loved one. Now they know.
The killings began with the death of Richard Mallory, and the case against Warnos began with Bob Kelly's investigation of it. Kelly has investigated a lot of cases in 10 years since, but Mallory and Warnos are still vivid in his memory.
I think Eileen Warnos is a predator. I think that she was out there applying her trade, and that nobody else in this world mattered but Eileen Warnos. She's not crazy. She knew what she was doing. Once she killed Mallory, I don't think the others were hard at all. It was a different type of investigation just because of who she was and how it all went down. It was entertaining to be involved in a task force situation. It was exciting at times. It was frustrating in other times. It was very satisfying to be part of the investigation.
Eileen Warnos has been on death row at Broward Correctional Institution near Miami for the last 8 years. She's had several appeals, all of them unsuccessful. Her next appeal will probably be her last.